She's Aphrodite, the goddess of desire, and surely she awakened mine. She even made our MC cry because of the excess of love she brings. But wait, because she is not happy, my brother. She is looking at her husband, who's a bald, bearded fellow, just about 5 feet tall, an ordinary blacksmith named Hephaestus, complaining that he is drinking and didn't bring what she wanted. Then she smiles once at our lad, and our brother's knees go completely weak. The queen of fertility then asks Hejun for a favor. Can you get some celestial steel for mummy, my good boy? If she said that to me, I'd have to change my boxers. And when someone shows you so much love, there's just no way to say no. So he grabs Hades' handlebar and rides his scooter off to another dungeon. But how on earth does someone end up as a delivery boy for a god? See, our brother was your typical hard-working but broke Uber Eats guy. His usual routine was to climb up 27 floors because the lift was out of order, ring the bell, and get cursed for taking too long. He would think about shouting at the fat lady, but he would just stay quiet. Then, the moment he gets back to the street, his boss calls him and says that the customer from his last order complained that Snorlax even threw everything into the toilet just to file a complaint. Our guy tried to explain himself, but it was already too late. He didn't get any new orders for a while. Learn to be more responsible. The problem is that our brother's rent is due next week. But it was at that moment, right in front of a dungeon entrance, that his mobile phone suddenly lit up with a system message. You have a new delivery request. The screen looks different from anything he's ever seen before. So out of curiosity, he taps on it. A bright flash bursts out from the phone, and when he opens his eyes, he finds himself in a place that looks like heaven. He panics, wondering if this is a dream or if some mystical being has finally chosen him. Nothing has happened yet, but he's already crying, thinking that his life as a delivery boy has finally come to an end. Then he realizes that the phone is still showing a delivery order, along with a map and instructions to collect nectar. Since he has nothing else to do, he accepts it. The moment he touches the screen, the golden door in front of him opens. He gulps and steps inside. He rides above the clouds, passing by a huge castle. He checks his phone, feeling nervous. This is really where the gods live. He enters a palace and stops in front of a giant door, guessing that must be the pickup spot. Nervous, he knocks on the door thinking that if a god answers, maybe this is his chance to become a hunter. Someone opens the door and asks who he is. He sees a blonde girl dressed in white and instantly knows she's a goddess. Stumbling over his words, he says that he's here for the order. She comes closer and demands to know why a human is in Olympus. When she accuses him of trespassing on private property, he quickly shows his phone and says that he is here to pick up a bottle of nectar. She pauses and says, "This must be Hermes' doing." With a sigh, she tells him to wait while she fetches something that humans are not supposed to touch. She returns with the nectar and warns that if her brother does not get it on time, he'll be furious. Standing in front of him, she warns him not to drink even a drop, and he quickly agrees. She points to her eyes to say that she is watching him and then shuts the door in his face. She gets angry at him. What is this? He thought he had escaped being a delivery boy, but now he's a delivery boy for the gods. Looking at the bottle, he says it looks like apple juice and thinks about leaving it. Then he realizes that the person who will receive it must be another god. Since he's already in Olympus, he decides to ask this god to make him something special. Excited, he says this will be his last delivery. With that, he starts driving through the lava. A notification says he's getting closer. After a mountain of magma, there's a small house. He reaches the door exhausted because it is hotter than a sauna there and announces that the delivery has arrived. The door suddenly opens. He's drenched in sweat because of the brutal heat inside. A dwarf who works at a forge turns around angry and asks who has come in. Dazed, the protagonist says he's not an intruder, he's just making a delivery. The dwarf walks towards him and realizes that he must be the boy his sister sent. The MC can't believe they are related. Then the dwarf realizes that he is not Hermes. His aura intensifies as he says that the boy came here without being invited. The protagonist hurriedly explains that the dwarf's sister told him to bring this. Once the dwarf sees that the bottle is still full, he says it's impressive. He didn't take a sip. The boy says he's not a thief and hands it over the way. The dwarf laughs and calls him honest. A sip of that nectar would have turned him into a god, but he did not feel any temptation. At that moment, the protagonist is left confused on hearing this, thinking that if he had taken a sip, he would have become a god. Now he eagerly comes forward to open the bottle and says that his life as a delivery boy is over. He takes the bottle, but the dwarf grabs it, opens it, and before the boy can stop him, drinks a big gulp. Then he throws the bottle away and says that it tastes even better all at once. The boy is devastated, while the dwarf says that he hasn't tasted such fresh nectar in a long time. Introducing himself, he asks the boy's name. He says his name is Hejun Lee and thanks Lee for being so honest. Before Lee can say anything else, the dwarf turns around to leave, saying that he feels refreshed and is going back to work. Lee grabs him by the shoulder and tells him to wait. The protagonist asks what he wants. Lee says that he still hasn't been paid. Hephaestus asks if he's talking about the delivery fee. He says he should already have it and walks away laughing. Lee checks the app and a flash blinds him. The system now shows 1,000 points. He wakes up in bed and wonders if it was all just a dream. The moment he checked the app, the lights surrounded him and sent him back to Earth. But now, a small system screen is floating in front of him. He complains because he has no idea what those points are for. He had just met a god. What he really wanted was to become the strongest living hunter. Then, the system sends him a message telling him that the points can be exchanged for items in the shop. So he opens it, hoping the points will be useful. The shop sells everything, from a golden apple for 1,000 points to a motorcycle for 100,000. He gets annoyed because nothing seems useful to him and everything costs too much. He keeps scrolling, trying to find something that could help at a hunter's gate. Somehow, he starts to think that all this doesn't make any sense until something catches his attention. At the bottom, there are 10,000 won, or about $10 for 1 point. If this is true, just with this delivery he earned 10,000, that is, he decides to tap on it. As soon as he touches it, a $10 note appears in front of him and falls onto his lap. He picks it up and it feels completely real. The system updates show that he now has 999 points. He can't believe it. He stares at the note, then at the screen and keeps pressing until money starts raining all over the room. Now the cunning look on his face says it all. He throws the money up in the air, excited to know that this is exactly what he needed. The next thing we see is that he is happily eating ramen, glowing with joy. He even goes to a deposit machine and checks the money. It works perfectly. He almost cries when he realizes that he earned around $10,000 with just one delivery. When a woman in the shop asks him if things are really that bad, he says that actually it's too good. He sits there laughing to himself like a complete maniac. While he's thinking about what to do with the money, he hears on the television about a new recruit. The news says that a guild is preparing for the Gate of Tartarus, the deadliest of all. The hunter they hired ranked among the top 5 in the hunter exam and has a contract with Hephaestus. Lee remembers that MC is the chubby dwarf who has just become the best customer he has ever had. He leaves the restaurant full and satisfied when his phone starts ringing. He already had a feeling that this would happen, so he brought his scooter along with him. The phone lights up showing a new delivery, and just like before, he is teleported. When he opens his eyes again in Olympus, he finds himself in a huge botanical garden. While he is wondering where the pickup spot is, someone calls his name, Hejin Lee. A young girl appears and introduces herself as the goddess Denita. Lee greets her and she tells him that her nephew spoke to her about him. He asks who she is and she says she is Hephaestus. The poor fellow thinks someone is pulling his leg. None of that family seems to be related. Smiling, she says that he clearly never drank the nectar. Then she asks if she can trust him with the delivery. He immediately says this. For him, it's easy, Bunny. He starts imagining things, thinking up some crazy scenario again. Demeter gathers energy in her hand and creates a lunchbox. He's confused, but she asks him to deliver it. Hejin wasn't expecting something so simple, but at least it should be easy. He says he'll do it, but suddenly she shudders and the entire garden withers in a second. He looks around in shock, but she's already walking away and thanks him. He just hopes that this delivery doesn't cause any trouble or turn out to be some divine bomb. Even so, he puts it on his scooter, thinking that a goddess wouldn't send something like that to her own daughter. Then he checks the destination, but before he can focus, a flash sends him back to Earth, leaving him confused. The app shows that the delivery is actually to be made in Korea. He remembers that Demeter said gods can't leave their palaces without a proper reason, and he thinks this must be one of those cases, so he'll probably meet her daughter there. He had never been this excited about a delivery before and was already wondering how many points he would get. When he arrives, he takes off his helmet and says this must be a joke. The app tells him that the delivery is inside the most dangerous dungeon, Tartarus, the graveyard of hunters. He tells himself that can't be right, the daughter must be waiting outside the door. But then the route updates and the map clearly points inside Tartarus. He shouts that there's no way he's going in and tries to cancel, but under the 1 hour limit it says cancelling brings divine punishment. A timer appears, 42 minutes left, after which he'll turn into a pig with a human mind. He looks on sadly, wondering what kind of punishment that is. He should have checked the details earlier, but none of this makes any sense. On one hand, there's no way he can get past the guards. Then his crazy mind starts thinking about pork dishes. At that moment, the system pops up again and tells him that if he needs help, he can check the shop. He knows he barely has any points, so it shouldn't be of any help. He even considers paying the hunters to go in for him, but the shop has something for 800 points, a replica of the cannon, a mist helmet that hides the user for 30 minutes. He calls the limited time offer a scam made just to drain his last points. Even so, since the other option is to become pork, he buys it and swears this will be his last job. The helmet appears out of nowhere, and when he tries to grab it, it rolls away. What an idiot. Once he puts it on, he has 38 minutes left to finish the delivery. He walks past the guards, who don't notice him at all. They simply sneeze, thinking it's just the cold wind. He heads towards the door completely scared. This is one of the worst places in the world, but he has no other choice. Hae-jin Lee, a 20-year-old delivery boy without a hunter's license, without a contract with any mythical being, and without any powers, somehow keeps going. He becomes the first person to reach the deepest part of Tartarus. Looking around, he says that there's no one there. At least he made it on time and won't turn into a pig. So he starts shouting that the delivery has arrived. Then from the darkness, a three-headed wolf looks him straight in the eyes. The poor fellow is frozen, wondering what on earth it is. The beast comes closer, drooling and ready to bite. Helpless, he thinks it would have been better to turn into a pig. The monster comes right up to his face and he's sure this is the end. He used up all his points on that stupid helmet and handed himself straight over to this monster. Then he remembers that the helmet had two uses. As the beast leaps, he activates it again, but the jaws are already upon him. It feels too late until someone orders the beast not to eat anything dirty. The monster suddenly stalks. Hae-jin slowly opens his eyes and realizes that he is still alive. He turns around and sees a little girl. He can't believe there's a child in the depths of Taurus. She calmly comes closer, pets the beast, and says that this dog doesn't bite. Immediately, he realizes that she looks like Demeter. Politely, he says that he has a delivery. When someone behind them asks where Persephone went, a pale man appears and says she must have gone to play with Cerberus. Then he notices the MC and asks how a mortal dared to enter Hades' underworld. Embarrassed, the protagonist tries to explain himself, but he's already terrified upon realizing who it is. Hades says that no human being has reached this place in a long time, not since Orpheus. An aura wraps around Hae-jin's neck and he cannot breathe or speak. Hades says that Orpheus came to save his dead wife, but this boy came to steal his helmet. The moment he grabs it, he realizes that it is fake. Persephone tells him that they should listen to the boy first. Then Hades lets him go and he falls to the ground coughing. Hades asks why he entered this place. Struggling to breathe, he tells him that he came to make a delivery. Hades asks if it is for him, the god of the underworld. He says no, that he was sent by his wife for his daughter. The two of them look at each other confused. Hades asks why a delivery boy brought it instead of Hermes. Trembling, he says he doesn't know, that's just what they told him. Persephone recognizes the lunchbox immediately. Hades asks if he really said that his wife sent it. He says yes, she asked him to take it to her daughter. Persephone explains that it came from her mother-in-law. She lights up, happy that it even arrived hot. On hearing that, Hae-jin starts to wonder if those two are actually a couple. She points at Hades and blurts out that it's disgusting and he's far too old for that. Then she covers her mouth with one hand and realizes she said it out loud. But Hades heard every word and tells her to say it again to the king of the underworld. The MC starts rambling apologies, trembling all the while. Then Hades just stares at him and bursts out laughing like a fool. Hejin is stunned, and Hades says he never thought a human would be brave enough to insult him. He asks for his name and the boy replies trembling. Hades says he will forgive him this time. Hades says he will forgive him this time, but if he slips up again, all he has to do is raise his hand and the energy surrounding him makes the warning very clear. After that, Hades says the payment has been sent and that he can thank his mother-in-law for the food. Immediately the window flashes and this time he gets 10,000 points plus another 5,000 from Hades. He even gives back the helmet, saying the boy can keep the toy. Hejin starts trembling and thanks him with a big smile. The scene shifts to a worn-out man standing against a dragon. He gets ready for battle. This is the captain of Team 1, the combat hunter, Do-gyong. He throws a series of punches, but the dragon strikes back and scratches his chest. The combat hunter Do-gyong lands a series of blows on the dragon, but it responds by slashing his chest with its claw. Then, another fighter attacks from behind with an aura sword, making the dragon react, but the strike lands and the dragon flies off in pain before crashing down, defeated. The swordsman approaches Dwan in congratulation. Finally, they cleared the first 4 floors of Taurus. This man is the guildmaster, Shang-jun Park, 3rd in the world. The whole team starts celebrating. He calls it a great day because his guild has reached the deepest zone of Taurus. Even so, everyone is eliminated. Shang-jun thanks Do-gyong and says they did it because of him. Do-gyong moved and says he doesn't deserve so much credit. The team hugs each other and talks about staying together forever. Shang-jun tells Aaron not to be too hard on the dragon, who is ranked 17th in the world. She says she understands. He knows she wants a lot of mana stones, but there's no need to rush. Then suddenly he feels something. Jumping off the dragon, he warns that something is approaching quickly. The team stares into the darkness, knowing they are too exhausted for another fight. Shang-jun tells everyone to get ready, and Aaron says it's almost here. The leader warns that if things go wrong, everyone should run. He will stay behind and hold off the monsters, but the others get emotional and say they will fight by his side till the end. He smiles, but Aaron steps in. It's here now. In the distance, they hear an engine and then see the figure of a motorcyclist wearing a helmet. Shang-jun just looks on, wondering what on earth he is looking at. Calm as ever, Hejin asks if he can pass through. Seeing the dragon, he says they're amazing and is glad they showed up because the helmet was about to disappear. He gives them a thumbs up and warns them to be careful. There are creatures with dark magic up ahead. Then he speeds off on his scooter. The whole guild is too confused to say a word. The next scene talks about the number 150,000. If those were years, we would be back in the age of dinosaurs, and it's close to the total population of Korea. Usually, he gets about 3 per delivery. To reach that figure, he would need 50,000 jobs. But that's exactly the amount of money he would get if he exchanged his points now. The boy can't stop smiling. He spent the whole day staring at that number. Sure, he was afraid of turning into a pig. He was also nearly eaten by a dog and almost strangled by the god of the underworld. When he thinks about it, he really suffered for this money. But none of that matters anymore. He has made a fortune, and like any greedy little capitalist, he already wants more. He says from now on, then his stomach growls and he decides that food comes first, maybe some beer and fried chicken. Meanwhile, Sheng Chong is at a conference. He's exhausted and steps out to talk to the members. After that, he still has to meet with the president of the Hunters Association. The man never gets a blick. Do-young asks if he mentioned the delivery guy at the conference. He says no. For now, he prefers to keep it a secret since no one knows where that fellow came from. They should have chased after that guy and asked him some questions, but everyone was too tired and dazed to move. Even so, the whole guild is curious. The blonde points out the strange helmet and the scooter, saying that maybe it won't be so hard to track him down. But Shang-jun tells them to leave it for now. Their job is to clear dungeons, not to hunt down a mysterious rider. Then he tells the other two that they need new weapons, so they'll head to the mining dungeon. Do-young starts complaining but gives in and asks what kind of metal he wants. After thinking for a bit, Sungjun says it's called Celestial Metal. Meanwhile, the MC is enjoying his fried chicken when suddenly his phone rings. He jumps up immediately, not wanting to miss an order from the gods. Even though he's hungry, a flash of light whisks him away and he ends up in the mountains. Right in front of him is Hefei, who sees his house again, and that's when he realizes he forgot his scooter and helmet. While he's thinking about that, someone appears behind him. Then a voice calls out to the boy and he turns around to see him crying. Hyjin asks why he's outside. Still crying, the protagonist says they threw him out. Hyjin is puzzled and asks what happened. He says he was eating and drinking with his brother Dionysus when someone showed up and called him dear. They asked him why he was drinking again and threw both of them out, telling them not to come back. Dionysius ran off immediately, leaving the little dwarf alone. Hyjin says she understands and then asks what he wants her to bring him. Looking miserable, Hephaestus says anything to eat or drink will do. Ever since he was thrown out, he hasn't had a single bite to eat. He even begged his sister, but she didn't have any nectar. Now Hyjin is his last hope. The MC understands him, but has no idea what a god is supposed to eat or drink. Lying on the floor, Hephaestus says that a bit of meat and some alcohol would be perfect. Hyjin checks her phone and tells him to wait. A flash of light appears while the dwarf remains lying on the floor. He starts sniffing the air until Hyjin returns with the beer and chicken she bought, saying she is happy to share them. MC says he has no idea what that is, and the boy explains that it's a classic combo in Korea. The dwarf is very happy and says he has never tasted such a refreshing drink before. He even thought that the piece of chicken looked too small, but the moment he bites into it, he says it's the best thing he's ever eaten in his life. Hyjin starts to wonder if this guy is really a god. Then the dwarf promises her a great reward and tells her to check her phone. At that moment, her phone rings and she sees that Hephaestus has sent her another 15,000 points. The clever fellow can't believe that he has earned 1,50,000 just by delivering chicken. The dwarf even tells him to call whenever he needs anything. For him, this dwarf is the sweetest guy in the world and he almost wants to hug him until someone approaches. A voice shouts, "Darling!" and both of them turn around. Hyjin freezes when she's asked why she's drinking again. Seriously, what is this? It's Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love. The protagonist is left stunned and says that he has never seen anyone so beautiful. He can't understand how she is married to that crying dwarf. And then Hephaestus suddenly falls to his knees. He quickly explains that he's only eating there because he was thrown out. She looks at him as if that sounds exactly right. The dwarf panics and Hyjin thinks it would be better to apologize. Then she calls Hyjin by her name and introduces herself as Aphrodite. She truly is the goddess of love and radiates an incredible charm. She apologizes and Hyjin says it's alright, she's only there because she was hired. Hearing that, the dwarf asks if he can deliver anything else. He is not sure what to say, but Aphrodite says he seems like an honest boy, not someone driven by greed. She says they can count on him since he is the delivery man of the god. The dwarf loves to hear that, but honestly, Hyjin would rather do a job for Aphrodite. Even so, the dwarf asks her to get some materials for the forge. The place is in his own city, and what he needs is celestial metal. The next thing we know, he's already on his scooter and wonders if this is the right place. He's standing in front of another door, this time the Suri mines, and his heart starts beating fast. He can't believe he's entering another dungeon. As soon as he saw the location, he looked at it and realized that it was the mines. He hesitated and told Hephaestus that he couldn't do it because in the last dungeon he was nearly killed. The dwarf asked why, and he explained that he's not a hunter and cannot fight. Earlier, he only survived thanks to a helmet that hid his presence, but now it is broken. Hephaestus says that if the helmet is broken, give it to him and he'll fix it. Excited, he jumps up and says that he is the god of blacksmiths. He can repair any mythical object. Hyjin also gets excited and now has the helmet back. It is a repaired replica with a limit of 2 minutes and 2 uses. He goes back through the door, but inside it, it looks like a fair, which leaves him confused. He knew this dungeon was popular, but this is just too much. He thought the monsters would be the difficult part, but now he realizes that the real problem is digging deep enough to find the ore. Meanwhile, Doyun is there, eating casually. After driving for 30 minutes, he finally reaches an empty area. The problem is that the ground is terrible and his scooter's rattling like mad. At least he starts detecting minerals in the walls, but he is looking for celestial metal, a bright red ore. He keeps wondering how much further he has to go. Then he turns a corner and a giant skeleton passes by him. He panics but keeps accelerating since he is still invisible. Then his scooter crashes into something. A skeleton notices the noise but seems confused because it can't see anything. The bad news is that his scooter is practically wrecked. He pauses for a second and then smiles. He is rich enough to buy as many as he wants. So he goes deeper into the cave until, on top of a pile of rocks, he finally sees the celestial ore. He approaches, takes off his helmet and smiles, saying that he has finally found it. The problem is getting it down. He pulls from one side, kicks from the other, and finally gives up. So what is he supposed to do now? Then the system helps him and tells him to check the shop for something useful. As soon as he opens it, he sees a recommended item for 4,700 points. It's an explorer's pickaxe that can mine perfectly, but only once. But for him, 4,700 points means 47,000 rupees, and that's just crazy. He remembers the entrance where pickaxes are rented for 10,000, so he starts to leave, saying that there's no way he'll spend that much money. The problem is, when he looks at his scooter, it's obviously in terrible condition. Knowing that he might not survive the journey back, he decides that the safest thing is to take the risk. He spends the 4,700 points and the pickaxe appears in his hand. Then he tells himself that he'll pay the money back as soon as possible and swings a blow at the ore. The blow lands cleanly, the ore comes free from the rock and the pickaxe crumbles instantly. The ore rolls down the pile and he chases after it like a fool. He picks it up but it's incredibly heavy. After a struggle, he finally gets it onto the scooter, thinking it would be much easier if he could just go straight to Olympus. But at that moment, a stone ogre appears behind him. He doesn't have his helmet on and freezes in fear. The monster roars so loudly that it makes the cave shake. In another area, Doyun is fighting skeletons, and when he hears it, he wonders, what was that? He fears something running out of the darkness and gets ready to fight, only for Hagen to come flying in on his scooter and shout at him to move. Doyun recognizes him as the same guy from Tartarus, but the protagonist quickly passes by and shouts that he should run if he wants to live. Doyun doesn't even say a word before the guy is already gone. Then he hears something behind him. When he turns around, the ogre charges straight at him. He starts running desperately, shouting that he wants to be taken along. The scene shows Hagen shouting that he almost died again. Hephaestus says that he is impressively fast, but our guy just curses him for not warning how dangerous that place was. The dwarf looks confused and says there's nothing there that could put anyone's life in danger. The protagonist tries to explain that the rock was also huge. The dwarf still seems lost, so he says he'll go and have a look. Then he brings a red block, drops the huge ore to the ground and tells Hephaestus to look at how gigantic the thing he asked for is. The dwarf looks surprised and asks what kind of monster that is. The two of them just stare at each other. Hagen tells him to stop joking because that's the celestial metal he wanted. He explains that yes, it is. Then he lifts the stone and says he's never seen celestial metal so big or so pure. Hagen is confused by this. The dwarf tells him to wait and says he'll show him something. He comes back with a small stone and says that used to be the biggest piece he had ever seen in his life. Then he tells the protagonist that it's even more amazing than he thought and that he deserves much more than what he was promised. He tells Hagen to look and Hagen is left stunned while the dwarf gets excited about the ore. For the delivery, he was supposed to pay 20,000 points, but because of the size of the ore, he receives another 30,000. He is so surprised by the payment that it makes his head spin. It's like receiving $500,000. The dwarf says he had to pay more because it would have been ridiculous to take just one piece and tell him to carry the rest. Hagen falls to the ground and thanks him from the bottom of his heart. The dwarf tells him to get up, but the boy says he can't. His legs are also grateful for it. Later, the news reports about the earthquake in the Sarai mines. Sangjin asks Dohin if he's really alright. He says yes, but warns that the mines will be closed for a while. Sangjin asks what happened and says that a giant golem appeared and that the same fellow from the gate of Tartarus showed up again. The strangest part is that the golem seemed to be chasing him. Upon hearing that, Sungjin starts thinking about recruiting the protagonist. Dohyun says that he can track him down if needed. He remembers the bicycle and the number plate, and he also got the CCTV footage from the area. The leader thanks him and says that someone like that would be a great catch for the guild. He simply feels relieved that the guy wasn't hurt and says he'll handle things from now on. Doyeon gets excited, thanks him and says he'll follow him anywhere until Sangjin asks if he has any celestial metal. That shucks both of them up. Meanwhile, Jaijun sees 75,000 points on the screen and grins like a fool. With $500,000, he can finally think about buying a new house. He's earning a huge amount of money, even by the standards of the top hunters. The problem is that he knows luck is the only reason he's still alive, so he starts to wonder if the shop has anything useful. He opens it and starts looking, but as always, everything is too expensive and practically useless. The cheapest weapon costs $1 million and they're just replicas, so they probably won't last. For a moment, he thinks maybe it's not worth fighting monsters. Then something catches his attention. It's a level 1 racing suit that increases the user's physical ability according to the suit's level. The price is 50,000 points and it annoys him that the system has never recommended something this good. Even so, he doesn't know how strong it really is and 50,000 points is a lot. After thinking it through, he buys it as a work investment. It should allow him to handle more deliveries. As soon as he buys it, a flash of light appears and the suit appears in front of him. Now there's no turning back. He is down to 25,000 points, but he is fully prepared. When he puts it on, it feels strange. It's a bit tight but also so light that it barely feels like he's wearing anything, and it's not hot at all. He decides to give it a try. Meanwhile, Dohyun is feeling miserable in the city. He has been trying to find the protagonist, but even with the number plate, he can't get an address. Since the guy hasn't done anything illegal, the police have nothing against him. He shouts at himself, wondering how he's supposed to find that rascal. At that moment, the protagonist stops nearby and tells him that the traffic light is green. Dohyun apologizes and moves aside, saying that many people seem to be riding the same bicycle. Then he notices the scratches on the side. They match exactly, just like the number plate. He shouts at Haejin to stop, but he's already gone. Dohyun tries to chase after him, then spots a taxi and gets in, telling the driver to follow that bicycle, only to be thrown out because the driver asks if he thinks this is a film. Then the taxi leaves and left. Even so, he carries on and says he will follow that route until the biker stops. After running for quite a while, he finally collapses, out of breath. A woman asks him if he's alright and he says yes. She says she knows him from one of the biggest guilds, but he says she is mistaken. No one from a major guild would be lying on the ground like this. He still has no idea where that foolish delivery guy went. Then a scream catches everyone's attention. He gets a bad feeling and moves forward slowly. He looks around but doesn't see the bicycle anywhere. Even so, his instinct tells him that fellow is involved. Some elderly people warn him to be careful, saying that the echo of the pickaxe could trigger an avalanche. He tells them not to worry, that he is from an important guild and starts working again. Once again, he chases after the exhausted protagonist. Then he looks to one side and sees a rock with a clean hole in it. He says it's impossible for anyone to have done that. A B-rank hunter could break a rock, but making a perfect crater like that doesn't make any sense. It must be magic or some divine power. If the biker did it, he has to bring him to the guild no matter what. On his way back home, the cunning Hagen is left dumbfounded, still shocked at having made that hole in the rock. For a few minutes, he was even able to run faster than his bike. Now he's excited and feels ready to venture into any dungeon. His phone rings again, but this time it's a Chinese instrument instead of a harp. He checks the location, Buxia. Since it's not Olympus, it's probably a dungeon. He searches for dungeons in Buxiang and, just as he thought, there's one called manhwa. Since the delivery doesn't have a time limit, he decides to wait for the suit to recharge first. What he doesn't realize is that someone is following him. The blonde from the guild is watching him. Zangjun has already heard everything. Diane rebooted. She said that if they spread hunters around the area, sooner or later they would find him. Zhang Jun said that wouldn't work without a photo, but Diane told him to relax. Then she showed him a perfect sketch of the motorcyclist. The leader asks if it's true. The guy seems stronger than he looks. Diane brings up the rock with the hole in it, something a normal protagonist could never do. Jiang Wang may be the most important guild in Korea at the moment, but the second largest, Black Dragon, has grown rapidly in recent years. The problem is that they will do anything illegal if it helps them gain power. The leader says they can't allow such a talent to end up in a guild like that, especially with how shady they've been lately. Diane says he can be trusted to recruit the guy. The next day when Haijin arrives at Mount Huago, she sees a crowd at the entrance, even though it seemed unpopular online. As she gets closer, a man tells her to stop right there. Surprised, she realizes that the guy is actually talking to a small child behind her. She hears people whispering about the Black Dragon Guild. The protagonist knows it's one of those guilds that likes to take over the gates. Even so, she heads inside, since it has nothing to do with her. The moment she enters the dungeon, she receives a message telling her that she's close to the delivery point. She walks a bit further and the phone says it's right above, leaving her confused. Then she looks towards the mountain and realizes that the delivery point is at the top. Remembering the stone golem, she gets nervous, but now she has her suit, so she feels confident that she can handle anything that comes up. She takes off her helmet, ready to move, when someone calls out to the delivery person. A face beneath the ground speaks to her. Haijin freezes. It is the head of a monkey that is speaking to her. The monkey tells her to relax. Had she never spoken to a monkey before? Is she not sure what to say? She asks if the monkey plays the honor. The monkey says that a boy with a winged hat told him that if he wished for it with all his heart, someone would come to fulfill his order. The protagonist starts to wonder if that boy with the winged hat is behind everything. The monkey says that there is something he wants Haijin to bring him, and the MC tells him to give it a name. The monkey introduces himself as the beautiful Monkey King or the victorious Buddha. Others call him the great sage Wu Kang. Haijin instantly thinks of Goku and goes closer, asking him why he's trapped there. Sun Wukong says that he was punished for stealing peaches from the Jade Emperor's tree. He just wanted a bite, but the moment he touched them, he was sealed under the mountain. Haijin says that she understands and asks him what he needs. Wukong says it's his turn. Follow the path behind him and you'll find a pile of rubbish. There's a box hidden there and he wants it to be brought back to him. Haijin checks and sees that it is 6 miles away. Since it's not very far, she says she'll be back soon and leaves, but the little monkey smiles mischievously. Elsewhere in the forest, some adventurers wonder if they've found the boss of Mount Huago. There sits a giant golem. A girl approaches and tells them not to be afraid. She is the master of the Black Dragon Guild, Ju Hong, dangerous enough to have a presence that rivals even Aphrodite's. She knows that the Jengwon Guild cleared the first 4 levels of Tartarus, but if Black Dragon defeats this 8 trigrams boss, they could take the top guild spot. She orders everyone to attack, and the blonde behind her tells the tanks to move forward. The men hesitate and say that the thing isn't moving, but something seems off. The moment one of them steps forward, the ground sinks and a creature begins to rise. It's so huge that it casts a shadow over the entire team. A roar makes everyone tremble, saying that they can't fight against something like that. But the blonde warns that anyone who runs will be killed by the guild. The adventurers protest because they can't defeat that monster with such rubbish weapons. Then a redhead shouts for everyone to get ready to fight. If they lose focus now, they'll be crushed. The group hesitates and then moves forward. The blonde asks the redhead if she really thinks the plan will work. She calmly says that she has no idea. In the forest, Hadrian was riding his scooter when an earthquake occurred. Even the monsters are fleeing from that direction. Seeing smoke in the distance, he knows it's bad news. Even though his suit is on cooldown, he decides to check it out. By then, the adventurers are being crushed. A single stomp wipes them out and the rearguard tries to support them, but the arrows do nothing. Realizing that the attacks aren't working, the redhead spots a mage near the leader. He says he came to register, not to fight, but Shuju says that if everyone survives, it could damage their guild's reputation. He's left confused, then she hits him, saying that they are only here to help her take over this place. Since the battle is too noisy for anyone to notice, the others keep moving forward. The head uses a jumping skill to launch himself towards Gollum and lands a clean hit on its head. He shouts that he has created an opening and tells everyone to attack, so the team goes after the monster. After a tough fight, it falls to the ground. The team applauds, thinking that their attacks are finally working. They celebrate, convinced that they'll make it out alive. Then, the golem suddenly wakes up. Its gears heat up and it starts getting back up again. Johan seems excited. The boss enters feasting. Now it looks even bigger and stronger. From the back, Hadrian is watching everything and wonders where the like button is on this video. My friends, if this goes well, I'll bring the second part. So hit that bell icon. Now then, remember how the last episode ended with Hadrian inside the dungeon after the monkey asked him to go fetch some rubbish? The moment he got there, he pressed the like button. Outside, however, Dohyun says that yesterday he was in Suwon and now he is heading to Bukchon. The poor fellow is searching for Heijin with all his might. Basically, he's crossing the entire province. When he reaches the entrance of Seongju mountain, there's no one there, which leaves him puzzled. Then a chubby fellow with glasses calls out to him. Doyeon asks where he's from and the boy replies by telling him to mind his tongue and state who he is. So Dohyun gives his name and asks what exactly he plans to do. He's already sure that this man isn't from the association, more likely from Black Dragon. Then he walks past him and tells him to move aside. The chubby fellow keeps warning him not to go in. But since he can't stop him, Doyeon goes in anyway. That confirms it for him. If they've put guards to keep people out, there must be a boss inside. He runs out saying he needs to warn people since this place was already abandoned. The real battle against the 8 trigrams begins when the monster enters phase 2. That's when Heijin arrives. Seeing the giant monster with a laser in its belly, she realizes this is the rubbish the monkey was talking about. Even with the suit, she's not sure if she can defeat it. Trembling, she wonders what she's supposed to do now. Then she spots a red-haired woman with a group nearby. She quickly recognizes them as members of the Black Dragon Guild. Those who try to give up are dragged back into the fight while begging to be let go. Then, curiously, the blonde boy jumps onto the monster's chest along with the mage. That leaves Heijin confused, wondering what he's planning. The Black Dragon member starts throwing the adventurer towards the burning core. The man begs them not to let him fall, saying he'll die, but the blonde says it's his own fault for trying to run away. Then he lets him fall, but Heijin quickly rushes in and punches him in the face, calling him a bastard. The Black Dragon leader stares in shock, wondering who this guy is and how he managed to take down a B-rank adventurer with a single blow. Our guy saves the man like a hero, even catching him in his arms. The adventurer thanks him for saving him, but warns that staying there is dangerous. Heijin looks around and realizes he's trapped between the boss and the entire Black Dragon Guild. He knows he could just grab the box and run, using the chaos as cover, but he can't bring himself to do that. He tells the man not to worry. He simply couldn't watch someone die for nothing. The Black Dragon leader asks why everyone stopped, while Heijin thinks that this whole mess is because of those idiots. His suit only has 2 minutes and 17 seconds left, so he figures he has no choice but to move. The red-haired girl is furious because she thought they were about to win. The bald man asks if he should send the archers, but she tells him no. She explains that first they need enough bodies. That's the trick to beating the 8 trigrams. During the transition from phase 1 to phase 2, the boss can't move. If they feed its chest with sacrifices, the fight becomes much easier. Then, the bald man tells her to look. Heijin has already jumped high enough to soar above the boss. From up there, she notices a crack on its head, as if something could be removed from it. She's sure that's the weak spot, so she throws a punch. It lands squarely on the monster's head. The leader starts trembling, wondering what that idiot is doing. At this rate, the boss will wake up, so she orders everyone to stop him. She doesn't care whether he lives or dies, she just wants them to stop him. The guild starts shooting arrows at the boss. Heijin's suit is down to 1 minute and 31 seconds. While she keeps pounding Obra's head, she begs for it to break already. Then a warning window appears and his body starts dodging the arrows on its own. He's in shock and wonders why those people are trying to kill him. The bald guy tells the leader that this stranger is dodging like a god. He even dodges the arrows coming from behind without looking, until one hits Obra's eye. The creature shudders and its eyes light up. The ball guy wonders if they'll need everyone to stop him. Then he orders the front line to charge. Heijin wonders when this will end. He's covered in arrows as if he's wearing a wig. Then the ground beneath him starts to shake. The captain drops a fan, knowing that now they're in real trouble. The creature's eye lights up completely. The second phase is complete. Heijin complains that it's too hot up there, while everyone below is trembling. The golem stomps with a roar and with one blow wipes out the entire force. The ball guy asks the leader what they should do, but she has no answer. She knows there's nothing left to do. Facing the golem, she's sure that everyone is about to be reduced to ashes. But above them, Heijin keeps striking the monster's forehead again and again. She can't believe she's still alive up there. The problem is, her suit only has 10 seconds left. She keeps hitting and the time drops to 8 seconds. With 5 seconds left, she begs for it to break. Then there's only 1 second left. She throws one last punch and smashes the creature's head. When the smoke clears, Danjong has just arrived and can't believe what he's seeing. Looking at the fallen boss, he wonders if this kid really defeated it alone. In a way, Danjong feels drawn to Heijin. They seem to fight in a similar way, but he never expected to find him here. He runs towards Heijin and tells him that he has to recruit him for the guild today. Down below, the members of Black Dragon are still alive, and Suhan can't believe that loser managed to defeat the 8 programs all by himself. The bald one asks for orders and she tells him to grab the boy as soon as the smoke clears. She knows he was strong enough to win, but now he must be exhausted, and she can't let someone who ruined Black Dragon's plan get away. Then an explosion goes off right in front of them. It's Dojin greeting them. The whole guild recognizes him immediately. He says he was right to suspect they were behind this, and that he's already found out they plan to use the recruits as sacrifices. Johan hadn't expected him to show up there, so he orders everyone to get ready. Pointing at him, she says that now he is the target and that it's best for no one to let their guard down. Chu Han is worried that there are too many of them and now he's not sure if he can win. What he really wants to know is where Heijin has gone. Then another guild member approaches her and tells her that they have a problem. She asks him what it is and he, looking nervous, admits that the guy with the helmet has disappeared. Poor Suhan and Duhan also have no idea what just happened and she screams out of frustration. Neoni is in trouble, trapped alone against all of them. He got dragged into this by accident. Han Mao ran off with the helmet because he thought he was going to die. He almost woke up in Olympus and not because of childbirth. The poor fellow wonders why he helped those people when he's not even a hunter. He tells himself that he will never make that mistake again. Then something catches his attention. In the distance, he sees the city of the Sapingu Mountains. He wonders if the dungeon is disappearing because he just killed the boss. Dungeons are formed when the gates remain unopened for a long time. And once that happens, anyone can enter and kill the boss. But it is incredibly difficult. Normally, only hunters registered with the association can do it. This time, however, the one who got it approved was a fellow listed as a delivery boy. He simply prays that this doesn't cause any trouble and wonders again why he got involved in this. Then he remembers, back with the monkey says that the boy took longer than expected crying. Hai Jun says that the request was impossible. The monkey tells him to stop dragging things out and explain. Hai Jun curses and says that the monkey called him rubbish, but it was a giant ogre that shook the ground with every step and had a laser that almost burnt him alive. Kung says that's impossible and asks if the 8 trigrams have gone mad, since normally it's a peaceful creature that stays still unless someone attacks it. Then the protagonist realizes that if it weren't for the Black Dragon, this would have been easy. Now he's excited and wants to smash their heads in. How dare those rascals mess with his deliveries? The monkey says that, according to that story, it seems he probably didn't get the box, but Haijun says he did. Wukong asks how, and Haijun says he blew the monster's head off and brought the box to Wukong, asking him what was so special about it. The monkey laughs and starts to lose his temper, calling him unbelievable. Even if Wukong defeated that creature in the skies, its version on Earth could still destroy any human. He asks the protagonist's name, and Haijun replies. The monkey extends his hand and says that today he met Haiju Li. Then, suddenly, something shoots out of the box, explodes, and an object flies through the air. When Haijun opens his eyes, the monkey is holding the staff and says Haijun saved him and now he owes him one. Without the boy, he would have been trapped there for years. Haijun recognizes it, the golden staff. Wukong whistles and a cloud forms beneath him. He warns Haijun that he needs to leave before the Emperor of Yad appears. Then he flies away, saying that they will meet again someday. Haijun is left speechless. He doesn't mind that the monkey leaves or even skips the payment, but then a sack falls on his face. Wukong says that he is not stingy, that the payment is already there. What's in the bag is a bonus for all his hard work. Haijun asks what it is, but the monkey has already gone. A golden light shines from the sack. He opens it, wondering if this is really just a bonus. Later, back at home, Haijun watches the news. They are covering several accusations against the Black Dragon Guild. He felt relieved to know that those scoundrels were finally paying for what they had done. The man whom Haijun saved told the reporters that no one went in expecting to fight the boss. Then the journalist asked about the person with the helmet who rescued everyone. With a smile, the survivor said that the guy showed up just when he was about to be burned alive. He alone marked the 8 trigrams, and without him, none of them would have managed to get out. Haijun smiled, thinking that all that effort actually meant something. When his body started moving on its own, he thought he had gone mad. But everything turned out fine and no one found out who he was. Even so, the best part was the money. Now he had 95 and 300 points. He got 70,000 from this delivery, although a part of him still felt he deserved more for dealing with that boss. Still, he was satisfied. Once he cashed in, it was about $700,000 from a single job, enough for an amazing flat. And he also got a reward. He never expected to get a lock of hair from the great Wukong. Put it on your palm and blow on it and it'll summon one of Wukong's clones. Haijun was excited because it might save him later on. Lately, strange monsters kept appearing everywhere. Even if it was just a clone, it was still Wukong. He even made a silly monkey face while looking at it. For him, this was basically an extra life. At that moment, another delivery request came in. He put on his jacket, his helmet, and got ready for the next job. Meanwhile, in a hospital, someone was running down the corridor. It was the guild leader calling Do Yong. Do Yong had clearly been beaten up badly by the guild and looked rough. He asked why the leader was there. Wasn't he supposed to be in Busan today? The leader said he had already taken care of it and couldn't just stand by and watch. Part of the reason Do Yong ended up like this was his fault, but the boy said it wasn't. He had misunderstood the situation and stepped in when he shouldn't have. He should have been more careful with those black dragons. Xingjin was furious. They dared to attack someone from his gay. He said Aris should have gone with Do Yong. Next time he would crush them himself. Then he asked if Do Young was alright. Do Young said the doctors told him everything looked bad. Seung Jun panicked and asked if his life as a hunter was over, but the brat was just messing with him and laughed because he had actually fallen for it. His arm only had a minor fracture and would be back to normal soon. He laughed right in the leader's face and asked if he really thought he had quit because of that. Seung Jun held his cheek and said that maybe today was a good day to retire. Do Hyun replied that he would follow his leader forever. A little later, the leader asked if it was true. The boy had managed to get through the 8 trigrams all by himself. Do Hyun said he saw the guy smash the monster's head with a single blow. As a martial artist, seeing someone win with bare hands left a deep impression on him. Then he asked if the team sent to look for that boy had any luck. Seung Jun said sadly that they hadn't. The cameras showed him entering an alley and then he disappeared. High up in the sky, Haijun sneezed, thinking it was very cold up there. A while later, he reached Hephaestus' house, which was much too hot. He opened the door and greeted his friend, but the protagonist was too focused to notice. So Haejun sat down thinking he would wait until the fellow finished his work. In that warm room, he started feeling sleepy. The heat reminded him of something. It felt like being in his mother's arms. Then Hephaestus suddenly woke him up and hugged him tightly, asking when he had arrived there. Surprised, Haejun asked when that damn dwarf had appeared. MC said that the boy seemed exhausted today, but the delivery he had was quite far away. Could he handle it? Heejin thought about it. He knew that the farther the journey, the better the pay. So he said he would walk around the world if the money was good. Hephaestus smiled, happy to be able to count on him. Then he took out a staff and said that this was the item. He had made it with the materials that Heijin had brought earlier and it had to be delivered today. On hearing that, Heijin said it would be better to get moving. He looked at the staff and asked where it was going. He said that the delivery location was a pyramid. Haijun was stunned and said it might be easier to send it by plane. Besides, the pyramids were not even part of Greek mythology. With a wink, Hephaestus said that he had clients outside Olympus as well. Haijun got annoyed, but ran out saying he would handle the matter in a few hours. Then the protagonist stopped him, saying he had forgotten one thing. The client was quite unusual, so he arranged an assistant for Haijun. The boy was confused and wondered why he would need help just to deliver a baby. Then someone greeted him, saying they had come on Cupid's orders and introduced themselves as Lucio. Despite the name, Lucio was a woman, or so he thought. He decided not to think too much about it and sped off on his scooter. The good news was that the journey wouldn't take much time because Egypt was in the sky and at least there was no traffic there. But suddenly Lucio shouted that she had been tricked. She thought she was helping Hephaestus, not riding behind some random human. She kept kicking Hejun on the head and he was already getting irritated. He said she was really annoying for such a tiny fairy. She replied curtly that actually she was big for a nymph. An hour earlier, when she introduced herself, she had proudly said that it was an honor to serve MC. Haijun clearly didn't want to bring her along, but Hephaestus insisted that he would need her. MC turned around and asked if he really couldn't go alone. Lucio got angry and demanded some respect while explaining that it wasn't a matter of trust. Haijun simply didn't know where they were going, and Lucio did, so she was supposed to help him, not hold him back. But on the scooter, she just picked her nose and said she didn't want to help this boy. She complained about riding on a human scooter and kept kicking him on the head, asking how much longer it would take. He ignored her and she kept shouting, demanding an answer. So he told her that if she kept quiet, he would tell Hephaestus that she was perfect and wouldn't cause any trouble. But for Lucio, being useless would ruin his reputation. He had studied all his life, and fairies like her were treated almost like divine beings. She refused to accept that and kept complaining until a sweet fell into her mouth. Surprised, she asked him what he had just done. Haijun said that she wouldn't stop talking, so he gave her sweets to keep her quiet. And if she stayed quiet for the rest of the way, he would give her more. Lucio had never tasted a sweet before and it felt like food from heaven to her. She warned him not to lie and he said that he always kept his promises. Hadrian thought that sweets were the easiest way to deal with a child. With her finally quiet, they were just 800 meters from their destination. He enjoyed a few seconds of peace before he saw two eyes in the mist. He slowed down, but they were already inside a thick fog. Annoyed, he asked Lucio why he hadn't warned him. She said it was his own fault for stuffing his mouth with toffees. So he stopped the scooter and pulled her out while she struggled, telling her to look. Behind them was a giant sphinx. It said they could only pass if they solved the riddle. Lucio quickly warned that this thing would eat anyone who answered wrongly. The sphinx was connected to Siphon, the monster that nearly destroyed Olympus. This one wasn't at that legendary level, but Ji-un wasn't exactly strong either. One look at its size told her that her blows wouldn't be of much use. Then her phone rang and she just hoped this job would pay well. After that, she walked over there. Lucio asked what he was doing and Heijin said the obvious. He was going to answer the riddle. She tried to stop him, warning him that he would die if he got it wrong. But Heijin was confident he knew what the Sphinx would ask, since the usual riddle was famous. And in the worst case, he still had Wukong's hair. The Sphinx turned to him and asked if he was ready. Heijin told her to start already, yaar. He was busy and had a delivery to make. Meanwhile, Lucio was crying because the idiot had actually agreed. The Sphinx smiled and told them to get ready. Heijin was expecting the classic riddle about what walks on four legs in the morning, 2 at noon and 3 in the evening. Although honestly, old people these days can get so muscular that they don't even need a walking stick, so he stayed confident since he had heard that many times. But then the Sphinx asked, "What is the name of the sound a duck makes when it falls?" Her Jinn just stood there with a completely dumbfounded look while the Sphinx stared at him. He asked what kind of stupid question that was. Lucio started thinking and said that ducks quack. Then he broke down crying because he had no idea what sound they made when they got hurt. Being watched through a sphere, the last thing she wanted was to be eaten alive. That sphere was being watched by a woman dressed in Egyptian clothes who said that the two visitors seemed very interesting. The Sphinx looked at them again and demanded the answer. Heijen had no idea. What kind of dad joke was this? Then he remembered that he was facing a Sphinx. Maybe the answer was some kind of wordplay. The Sphinx smiled and said he had 3 minutes. Lucio, now desperate, shouted that it was impossible. Even she, a distinguished academic, had no idea. Now she was getting angry with Heijen, convinced that she was about to be eaten because of him. She remembered having asked her teacher if the Sphinx's riddles were difficult, and he told her that before anyone solved one, 100 people would be eaten. Lucio asked if that meant they were impossible to solve, and said that not even Jim answered correctly. He warned her that if she ever came across a Sphinx, she should run away. So now she was crying and saying that she knew this would end badly. Then Heijen turned around and said, "The sound a duck makes when it falls is a charlatan, a mix of charlatan and accident." Of course, Lucio just froze and asked what on earth he was thinking, why he would waste his only chance on something so stupid. But the Sphinx smiled and said that he was right. She snapped, asking how that silly answer even counted. Heijen, however, thought it was obvious. It was a joke, of course. The Sphinx praised him and said he had earned the right to pass. Before she could finish, he told her to shut up. He sorted out this mess so she should move aside. The Sphinx just stood there, confused by how hostile he was. Then he told her to come up with a better riddle because that one was rubbish. The poor Sphinx started crying. He turned around and asked if she was really crying. She said no, it was just sand in her eye. Lucio still couldn't believe he had done it right. Then Heijen told him to wait because she was speeding up. After a while they entered the corridor and Lucio called out to him, sounding unsure. He asked her what it was and she said she wanted to apologize for what happened earlier. She was supposed to help him, but instead she kept looking down on him for being human. She said she didn't deserve to call herself a mega elite. Heijen told her that she didn't need to be so hard on herself. Compared to the unpleasant things he had heard before, this was nothing. For him, it was like listening to an annoying younger cousin, so he didn't mind. Lucia became a bit shy and thanked him. Later, they arrived at the pyramid. Its size was so massive that even Lucia couldn't see the top. Heijen looked around. The map said that this was the place. Then he noticed something written nearby. They went to a box covered with Egyptian text and she said it told them to ring the bell. He was impressed that she could read hieroglyphics and she said proudly that she was an elite. Then he pressed the button and everything started to shake. She said it was gravity magic which made no sense for a doorbell. And then the ground opened up beneath them, throwing them into a hole. A while later, he was on the ground. Shocked, he survived such a long fall, but he had landed on Lucia and almost crushed her soul. He asked her if she was dead and she replied sadly that she wasn't. Then they went through the pyramid-shaped corridors. Heijen thought this felt more like a dungeon crawl than a delivery until Lucia suddenly told him to stop. He asked if it was a trap. She told him to shine that shiny object on the wall so she could read the writing. On seeing the hieroglyphics, he asked what they said and why the painting showed humans with a giant. Lucio seemed frightened and asked her if she had discovered something. She said she had heard about an evil goddess who liked to torment the nymphs. And she was sure that these drawings were warnings from their ancestors about the attacks there. But to Heijen, it seemed less like suffering and more like a festival in the countryside. Even so, she got excited and said that this was her chance to avenge her ancestors. Heijen told her to keep quiet since that person was her client. Then a mysterious leg intervened and asked what was this talk about revenge. The woman turned around and asked why they had barged into her house. Smiling like some sort of Cleopatra, she called them very rude. Then she asked which one of them wanted ribbons. Hyjin obviously couldn't see anything, but Lucio flew straight towards her, saying he was there to avenge his ancestors. The MC told him to calm down and asked what he was doing. The Egyptian woman simply smiled and asked her if she was a nymph, saying that it had been a long time since she had seen one. Then she hugged her and called her adorable. While she was being squeezed, Lucio shouted at the enemy to let her go. Haijun just stood there completely lost. Afterwards, the woman explained that a long time ago, festivals for nymphs used to be held there. And the youngest ones were always specially cute. She simply hated that they had left now. Haijun said that now he understood how they died. Probably she hugged them to death, and Lucio was living proof. The woman finally let him go, saying that she just couldn't help something so cute. Lucio cried, saying that he almost died. Then he asked Haejun why he didn't save him, and Haejun told him to just relax. They started arguing, and she said that he called her as if she were family. So how could he let family die? The woman stepped in and said she would introduce herself. She ruled over the two brightest lands and was the divine reincarnation of the mighty Horus, a pharaoh. But the pair ignored her and continued arguing. While they were fighting, Haejun asked what that pharaoh thing meant. Wasn't Egypt supposed to be a kingdom? Lucio said that he really didn't understand anything and explained that there were two types of gods, some like Cupid or Hephaestus who were born divine and others who attained divinity, like the woman standing before them. The pharaoh asked why they called her an old woman. Then Haijun said that he had come to deliver something, and she replied that she already knew. She had watched their entire journey. At that moment, the package began to move and flew into her hand. On looking at it, she said it was of high quality, the craftsman was skilled, and the design was excellent. She added that the delivery person, Haijin, had truly lived up to his reputation. That simply left the poor fellow confused. Since when does he have a reputation? Even so, once the job was done, she thanked him and said that any bonus could go straight to his account. Lucio said it was shameful to work with someone so greedy and asked him if he had no pride. Haijun replied that pride doesn't buy food. The money he was mocking was the same money that paid for the sweets he liked. That got her excited, and she told him to make sure the deposit was a good one. The pharaoh said their friendship was wonderful and told them not to worry about the payment. After all, she was a generous goddess. He got 50,000 for the delivery and another 50,000 as a bonus. That brought him to 19500 points. The rascal now had a total of $19,000. Lucio said that she helped too, so he owed her some sweets. He told her not to worry, he would get her an entire shop. She got excited and said she would keep 90% of the profits, leaving him in an awkward silence. But the woman warned them not to use that tunnel next time and to go through the main entrance. She had good memories of that place, but it made no sense to receive deliveries in the basement. Lucio pointed out that the notice said to ring the bell if there were no guards. The pharaoh explained that there hadn't been any guards there for years, so they should have knocked at the main door. Basically, they should have ignored the button and gone up the stairs. That being said, the delivery was done and he was already back at Hephaestus' house. He was exhausted, but at least he returned safe and sound. He told Lucio to wake up as she was drooling on his hand. She woke up and asked if they had already come back. He said yes. It was then that he realized they were already in front of Hephaestus' house. She spoke over the radio and thanked him for the day, saying she had enjoyed herself. He asked her why she had suddenly changed. Then he remembered that the job was done, so it was time to part ways. Smiling, he said it was nice having her around even if she talked too much. She told him to shut up and stop ruining the moment, and he said he was just being honest. But when they went inside, both of them said they never wanted to work together again. Even so, Hyjin hadn't expected them to get along so well. At that moment, Hephaestus appeared and said that the client had praised them a lot, so he thought they should continue working together. The two of them looked at each other, really thinking about it. Then they bumped their heads together and said they would only do it if everyone wanted it. And remember, the last chapter ended with him and Lucio bumping into each other while saying they didn't want to team up. Next, a boy is sleeping peacefully in his room when someone calls his name. He wakes up and Lucio shakes him and tells him to get up. He shouts and asks her what she is doing there, but she just covers her ears and asks why he's shouting at poor Lucio. Then she asks him if he has really forgotten about his partners now. That makes him remember that when he refused, Hephaestus started crying and said it was the first time she was asking her own son for a favor. So Hyjin gave in. The real problem was not just being her partner. Now he had to live with this headache. He asked her why she was waking him up like this when he was sleeping so well. Lucio said the noise wouldn't stop. He was confused until he looked at his phone and saw that it was a delivery from Manjok. He had no idea what Manjok was, but the orders kept coming non-stop. Then he checked and realized what was going on. They were regular delivery jobs, Chinese food all over the city. The guy who had been earning millions was now getting $5 or $10. Then he remembered that it had already been a week since all this chaos began. When that woman had a last delivery while she was in the bathroom, Lucio asked her what was wrong and if she was alright, but he told her not to worry. But Lucio will not let it go. She grabs his shirt and demands a real explanation because she wants to understand. Before he can answer, his phone rings. He gets tense when he sees it's his manager calling. The moment he picks up, the guy starts shouting, asking if he can't see all the orders piling up and why he is not working. Finally, we find out that Manjok is the delivery company he used to work for, and the boss says he was already kind enough to end his suspension after just 1 week. Even then, he says that the MC still hasn't learned and that if he doesn't start right now, he'll be fired. But Jinli bursts out and tells him to go ahead and do it. Honestly, he doesn't care anymore. The boss asks him if he's gone mad, but the boy keeps replying like, "What are you gonna do?" Lucio even pulls out a power meter and says that his anger has just crossed 40,000. Then things fall apart. The boss warns that if they blacklist him, no one else will hire him. Jinli still says he doesn't care. The manager tries to keep talking but the MC hangs up on him. The guy left grumbling, especially because they reported his baldness. Lucio asks him if he's really alright. He smiles and says he's fine now, they should go eat. Meanwhile, at the guild, Songjun is frustrated because they still haven't found the boy. Oh, Yang from Su reports that they searched all the streets he listed, but there was no one matching that description. He thinks the target already knows that people are after him and is hiding on purpose. Songjun thanks him and says he understands. He already has enough problems, and now this mysterious man is another headache. When asked if they should keep searching, he says no, it's not worth wasting more people. Then he asks about Busan, and the answer is not good either. The 6th rank hunter sent there returned without closing the gate. So in 5 days, it'll turn into a full dungeon. Songjun nods and says he understands. A month ago, a gate appeared in an abandoned building. When the association asked his guild to handle the matter, he knew it wouldn't be easy. But he didn't expect the 6th rank to fail. Then suddenly he smiles and says, "This could work out perfectly." He tells Sua to alert the team they are getting ready to move. Looking ahead, he says he will remind everyone why his guild is considered the best in the country. Meanwhile, Yang is busy eating a cup of spicy noodles and he loves it. He says it would have been even better if he had seen the manager's face after they called him bald and hung up on Lucio. Sitting across from him, she says they have a serious problem. She has never had anything this good before and now she wants much more. He tells her not to spill it on her clothes, but she keeps praising how smooth and spicy it is. For her, human food is amazing. He realizes that she really hasn't enjoyed much in life. Then he reminds her that it's just instant noodles. Even the people nearby start to comment that things must be tough if she has never eaten noodles before. With his age and his face, they assume he's a young single father. MC didn't expect people to see him like that. Later, after going out, Lucio's full and wipes her face, reminding her that he told her not to eat so much. That's when he realizes. He feels less like a couple and more like he suddenly has a daughter. The people nearby even whisper about how sad it is that such a young boy is raising a child alone. He realizes that the whole neighborhood is judging him, and if Lucio stays with him, maybe he really does need a bigger place. He starts thinking that moving might be a good idea, and she gets excited and says anything would be better than her little fish tank. If they're going to move, she says, it should be to that huge castle. She's pointing at a gigantic luxury apartment building. He squishes her cheeks and tells her she has no idea how expensive a place like that is. With her cheeks puffed out, she asks what happened to all the money he made from the pyramid. Then he remembers how many points he has. In fact, he has more than $1 million. So maybe it is possible. Perhaps the time really has come to get his own place. Lucio is already excited and says it's huge. And so, our delivery boy might be looking for a luxury apartment. It's also new, so it's very nice. He asks the agent for details and hears that the earliest they can move in is 2 weeks. The man keeps explaining everything, but genuinely interrupts him and says it's alright. He likes how it looks, but still wants to check out a few more places. He calls Lucio and tells her that they're going to see other places, but she asks him why not just stay here. He picks her up and tells her that he hasn't decided yet, so they leave. Then he looks to the side and thinks he recognizes a girl. A little later, Lucio stuffs herself with instant noodles again and says that delicious. Then she looks at him and asks why he isn't eating. He's too busy looking at the newspapers, drooling over the fact that he bought a house after just 1 day of searching. After talking to the agent, they checked out a few more places, but in the end he chose the first one. It was new and the price was reasonable. Even so, he can't stop thinking about the girl he saw leaving the apartment. Then he remembers where he saw her before, at the gate of Tartarus. So she is a hunter too. He assumes that she probably didn't recognize him since his helmet was covering half his face. But there is something else that matters more at this moment. Why aren't any delivery requests coming in? Lucio says they did one not too long ago, but points out that it was 2 days back. She says that's not a long time, but he is used to getting at least one job every day. She tells him to stop expecting that forever. Greed only causes problems, and he should have already earned a lot of money by now. He quietly admits that she was right, at least until yesterday. Before buying the place, he had about 19,000 mil ready to use, but just the down payment took up 12,000 mil. Once he adds up the installments, the furniture, and the living expenses for both of them, he realizes that he has spent too much. Lucio is left stunned and says that with the pharaoh's money, one could have bought a castle in the Divine Kingdom. He says that can't be helped. Real estate in Central Korea really is that bad? She asks what they should do now, and he says that when you're broke, you save. So no sweets for her for a while. Her face falls immediately, but then she says she'll think of something. A second later, she comes up with an idea and asks him why he doesn't go door to door looking for work. There's no rule that says they have to wait for work to come to them. They could ask Hephaestus which gods might need deliveries. He ruffles her hair and admits that she's actually quite clever. The problem is getting to Olympics. She says that he goes there all the time, so it should be easy. But MC explains that he only gets there when a delivery teleports him. Lucio instantly looks crushed. Then the story shifts to a helicopter transporting teams 1 and 2 of the Young One Guild. 45 hunters were called, including number 2, Aaron Barak, who is MC and Sangjin's neighbor. He reminds everyone that today's mission is the newly formed gate. They need to leave behind the failures of the past and once again show the glory of the guild. Everyone claps. Then he calls Aaron and the helicopter takes off. Once inside, he asks her if she's sure that the biker moved into the house next door. With that sharp memory of hers, she says yes. She can't be completely sure, but it really does seem that way. The guild leader is devastated. After spending huge resources trying to find the boy, it turns out he might have moved right next to her. He asks her once again if she's sure and she says yes. At least now Team 1 has an easy advantage, so they can focus on clearing the gate. Meanwhile, Erin thinks that this must be the man who used the 8 trigram solo, and she is very excited to fight him someday. Back at Hephaestus' forge, the MC arrives, but this time not for a delivery. The place is dark and closed. Lucio starts to panic and says they should leave before they get punished for trespassing. He says it's alright, especially since she was the one who taught him how to get here. Even so, Lucio insists that it's rude to enter someone's house when they're not around. She can't help but notice how hypocritical that is, considering that earlier she had called the owner of the forge an old rascal. Then someone steps on her back and demands to know who dared to trespass so early. It's just Hephaestus and the MC greets him. The god says he doesn't remember asking for any delivery. So why is she here? MC replies that she came to ask for a small favor. The dwarf asks what she wants, but MC says that first she brought a gift so as not to show up empty-handed. When the protagonist asks what it is, she proudly shows off a new bottle of soju. Since the god liked beer before, she thought of bringing something new. MC acts as if she doesn't care, then immediately tells her to ask for the favor, that he will help her. Legia asks if he knows any god who might need a delivery service. The dwarf thinks for a moment and says that a few names come to mind, but there's a problem. The jobs he knows of are extremely dangerous, but Legia doesn't hesitate. She says she'll do any job. There's nothing scarier than being ruined. And Hephaestus decides that the child is ready and says he'll send him right away. A blue flash appears and Legia tries to ask which god it is, but he's already gone. An instant later, he appears in a dense forest without any idea where he is. He has been sent off quickly without a single detail. Then the system suddenly warns him, danger detected. The moment Legia trains his eyes, he sees a red eye staring at him. A giant three-eyed demonic boar is charging straight at him. He gets ready, knowing that he won't be able to dodge it in time, until an arrow shoots out from the bushes and strikes the beast right on the head, bringing it down instantly. He turns around, confused, wondering what just happened and whether the thing is really dead. Then a familiar blue glow emerges from the bushes, exclaiming that they were almost crushed. He's stunned. He had no idea that Lucio was following him. She says that the moment he disappeared, she teleported after him. She was close by, but she's impressed that he managed to defeat one of the most feared beasts around here. Still trembling, Legia says that he wasn't the one who killed it. Then someone behind them says that it was him. Legia hadn't even noticed that there was anyone else nearby. The old man looks so strange that even the MC can't help but stare at him. The man comments that he has found a human and a nymph here. Legia keeps looking. The upper part of his body is human, but below he's a horse. Then his phone confirms that he has reached the destination. So this strange old man is today's client. The old man says that hardly anyone comes here and asks who they are. The moment Lucio notices the centaur's injured leg, he calls Lin and tells him that he thinks he knows who it is. Jason, leader of the Argonauts, Achilles, hero of the Trojan War, and even Hercules, who led Olympus against the giants, were all trained by this man. He is Chiron, the teacher of the greatest heroes. The moment she mentions Hercules, he draws his bow and aims it at them. With an arrow ready, he demands to know if they have any idea how much pain that name has caused him. Leo quickly explains that they are not here because of Hercules, they were sent by Hephaestus. That calms Chiron for a second, but then he unleashes a storm of arrows, shouting that they must think he's a fool. Fortunately, MC's team allows him to dodge while the forest gets destroyed. Later, inside Chiron's house, they finally explain everything to him from the beginning. Chiron says that's interesting. Hephaestus wouldn't just send anyone casually. Even so, no matter how he looks at this boy, he doesn't seem like a hero. On the other hand, he's traveling with a nymph, and even famous heroes rarely had such help. Meanwhile, Lin quietly asks Lucio why Chiron still doubts them after all that. She says she has no idea that she heard he was supposed to be kind. At last, Chiron decides to believe them, and both of them relax with relief. Then he asks if they can really retrieve anything. M says, almost anything. So Chiron gives him a chance. He hands him an empty container and says that to the north of here, there's a huge lake. Lee needs to go there and collect the saliva of the fool who lives nearby. He takes the bottle, but the word saliva makes him pause. Is this fellow seriously asking him to fill it with saliva? Chiron says yes, that's exactly what he wants, and asks if there's any problem. Lee thinks it's quite a strange invasion of privacy, but agrees to do it quickly. There's no way he'll let a paid job slip by. While Chiron watches, he thinks the boy is a fool for heading there without fearing what awaits him. At the same time, it's a good test. If he finishes this, the next job will be the icy mountain, something no human should be able to clean. Even so, Chiron doubts the boy will even make it to the square. Then Lee activates his suit and shoots up into the sky. Chiron stands there staring in shock as MC flies away with Lucio in his arms. After using the suit so much, he has gotten used to it and can maintain the speed all the way to the cave. The ascent is quick and seconds later he lands at the entrance. He switches off the suit with 32 seconds of flight time left. Lucy, on the other hand, is so dizzy that he looks about to vomit. Once inside, Liz says that now they only need that saliva. The problem is, they keep walking and don't find anything. Then she notices that Lucio's starting to break out in a cold sweat and begins to worry. She shakily insists that she's a high-ranking elite warrior and that she is not afraid of anything. Then they hear a single drop of liquid fall to the ground. Lucio screams and Lit tells her to calm down. Is this to drop? It's not as if a monster is about to appear right now. And of course, that's when she feels movement. She turns around and sees a giant snake with 36 heads, probably the legendary Hydra. Good news, getting saliva won't be difficult. Bad news, that monster is incredibly strong. Back at Chiron's house, he wonders where that boy disappeared to. He thought he was just a mortal, but even with strange abilities, there was no way he could have reached the mountain so quickly. Then Chiron sees the crater from the launch and uses an ability to confirm that the boy really did reach the cave. He gets ready to jump there himself, but his bad leg holds him back. Even so, he jumps, saying it would be madness if the boy actually went inside. After all, that cave is home to an immortal monster. Meanwhile, Lee forces a smile, or at least tries to. He knows that his chances of dying are too high. A second later, he runs for his life with Lucio in his arms, cursing Chiron for tricking them. Later, the Hydra scans the area looking for him. He hides behind the rock and whispers that they just have to wait until it falls asleep. But Lucio is trembling and says he knows exactly what this monster is. The beast in front of them is a Hydra. She asks him why he accepted Chiron's request. He replies that he wouldn't have done it if Chiron had told the truth, that Centaur tricked him. If he had his helmet, he might have a chance, but right now he's completely exposed. Then a system window appears. In case of emergency, the teleportation service is available. It'll not move him. Instead, for 5,000 points, he can have items from the shop delivered to his location. The problem is that 5,000 coins cost 35,000 and the helmet itself only costs 800 points. It's a complete rip-off, but he has no other choice. His life is more important, so he grits his teeth and pays up. The helmet appears in his hand. Lucio looks surprised and asks how it appeared out of nowhere. Lee sighs and says that the only thing that disappeared was his money. He puts on the cursed helmet and says, "Alright, Hydra!" Open it wide, and then starts walking straight towards him. Lucio panics, asks him if he has gone mad, and reminds him that the exit is on the other side. He says that he knows, but that he will handle it. Lucio warns him that this thing is not a baby monster, it's something real. The Hydra is a daughter of a god, and its venom is so deadly that even Olympus fears it. MC replies that if Typhon is really her father, he must have had terrible taste to make a daughter so ugly, yaar. Lucio tells him to stop joking. This monster is far beyond the Sphinx, but he tells him to wait at the entrance and promises that he'll be fine. Lucio storms off angrily and says, annoyed, that he hopes the Hydra's venom burns his skin. He was left thinking that the curse was a bit too harsh. Even so, it's time to deal with the monster. With the helmet activated, he approaches it. The Hydra seems to be asleep with its eyes open and venom dripping from its mouth. He opens the container to collect some, but when the venom falls to the ground and melts everything, he realizes that any ordinary container would be destroyed. He has no idea why Chiron wants these things, but they had better pay well. Then the whole cave starts to shake. The ceiling trembles as if it's about to collapse, and he has no clue why an earthquake is tearing through the cave. Even worse, he drops the container. Yes, now he's in trouble. His hand is literally in the Hydra's eye, and he's wondering how on earth he's supposed to steal its saliva now. The monster seems to look straight at him, and he almost screams, but it's only in his head. He doesn't make a sound. He covers his mouth and tells himself to calm down. As long as the helmet stays on, there's no need to be scared. Then all of a sudden a voice asks what's going on. It says that it smells the rotten spirits of the underworld, a scent it hasn't sensed in a long time. And it asks if the boy came from Tartarus. Heijen quickly realizes that it found him by his scent. The voice tells him not to panic. It knows that he's using Hades' helmet to hide. Seeing that there's no point in pretending anymore, our boy stays still and she asks him why he came to her. A cold sweat runs down his back. There's no way he can admit that he came to steal her saliva. The snake heads keep pressing him, and a big head assumes that Hades sent him. They start arguing among themselves, and then the voice demands an answer and asks why he still doesn't want to speak. He'd better not have come all the way here just to wake her up for nothing, so he makes something up and says he only came to see how she was doing. He takes off his helmet and claims that he came from Tartarus to check on her. That clearly catches her off guard. She assumes that Cerberus must have sent him, and Hydra instantly agrees. Awkwardly, he says that Cerberus hadn't seen her in a long time and wanted to know if she was alright. The Hydra says she never thought that bastard would care about his elder sister. After more than 1,000 years without contact, she never expected this. That leaves Hydra stunned. This Hydra is incredibly dangerous, so he knows he has to stay alert. Outside, Lucio's furious and on the verge of tears. No matter what happens, Hydra tries. She is sure she won't be able to defeat Hydra, so she runs down the mountain looking for help. On the way, she runs into Chiron, who asks her why she is alone. She lets slip that Hygiene is facing the Hydra. Chiron is surprised. He never thought the child would go so deep into the cave. When she asks him for help, he admits that not even a divine being like him can defeat that monster. Lucio demands to know what they are supposed to do. Chiron can only think that he should have sent the child home instead of testing him. With a sigh, he tells her to bite him. She asks him if he is sure, and he says he will not let the child die because of him. Back in the cave, Hygiene is still in shock. She never expected Hydra to have a human form. She says that her reaction makes sense. Ever since she got trapped there, she has not been able to use her real form. Not even her brother had seen her like this, so of course she is surprised. Hygiene thinks that this brother must be referring to Cerberus. Hydra quietly asks how her younger brother is and says that she misses him a lot. He simply tells her that Cerberus is fine, eats 3 meals a day, works hard, and seems happy. Naturally, Hygiene leaves out the part where Cerberus is now Persephone's pet. Hydra smiles, relieved to hear it. Hygiene quickly says goodbye and tries to leave now that his work is done. But the moment he turns around, she tells him to stop and he freezes. She says that anyone who has come for a younger brother cannot leave empty-handed. His body tenses up as he turns back and he says stiffly that it really isn't necessary. Too late, she clicks her tongue and insists. Then she turns around and tells him to take the strangely colored scale from her back. He hesitates, not sure why she wants him to have it. She tells him not to worry, her scales carry magic that will help him on his journey. He supposes it's like the hairs Wukong gave him. At that moment, he's convinced. There's no way he'll let a gift like that slip by. Even as he stares at her, he is half afraid he'll turn to stone. To be safe, he activates the suit for a second and yanks the scale off her back. The problem is, the suit stinks in short bursts, so he crashes to the ground. He's smiling with the crystal in his hand, but the Hydra is clearly not happy. She says he's become boiled. In fact, he was so daring that maybe she won't let him get away so easily. Yes, that sounds like a challenge. Hygiene gets up, insisting it was an accident. Meanwhile, Chiron is trembling, trying to process what he just saw. He shouts and asks if the boy really defeated the Hydra. From the censor's point of view, the MC is blazing with power, while the Hydra seems collapsed on the ground. Lucio jumps off Chiron's back and hugs Hygiene, saying she is glad he's alive. He looks at her and reminds her that he told her to wait outside because it was dangerous. She pouts and says she was scared. While they're arguing, Chiron still can't believe that a human defeated the Hydra, something even Hercules struggled with. Hephaestus really did send someone special. Hygiene then apologizes to the Hydra for the noise. She says it's alright and asks if the nymph is his. He quickly denies it and says she is more like a girl from the neighborhood. The Hydra smiles and says that their dynamic is interesting. Then she looks at Chiron and says that it has been a long time. He has aged a lot. Maybe time has defeated even his immortal body, or perhaps her poison has finally worn him down. Hygiene gets confused and wonders what history they share. Lucio laughs and says that she really doesn't know anything. Their story is famous. It involves Hercules, an arrow coated with Hydra's poison, and the loss of Chiron's immortality. Officially, it was an accident. In that battle, centaurs were falling everywhere, and Chiron was struck in the leg by one of those arrows. But maybe it wasn't just an accident. Perhaps it was karma for creating a monster like Hercules. Before Zeus was on Olympus, someone called him Chiron the Wise and asked him if he truly wished to give up his immortality. Kneeling down, he begged Zeus to take it away from him because the pain was too much. Zeus paused for a moment and then agreed. As a token of gratitude for training so many heroes, he said that Chiron would be given a constellation. Chiron asked what that meant, but Zeus only told him, "You will not die, one day you will understand." The centaur tried to object, but the decision had already been made. That day, Chiron the Wise came to an end and was reborn as a divine being, the commander of Sagittarius. From then on, he became Chiron, the mythical one. Back in the cave, the Hydra says that her venom is a death sentence for any creature, so she is impressed that he is still standing. He must be burning up all his mythical power just to endure it. Chiron, clearly in pain, says that her tongue is as unpleasant as ever. Maybe he should cut it off. She smiles and says that her mouth has become even filthier. He used to be kind, at least as far as she remembered. Then she turns to Hygiene and asks if his name is Hygiene. He nods, busy working out two very important things when a flash of light blinds everyone. Then Hydra lifts a small vial and says that she knows he came for a saliva. Chiron sent him to fetch it. A boy asks her if she knew all along. She laughs and says that of course it smelled of Chiron. Then she tells Chiron to come and take it, but he hesitates and asks what she wants in return, knowing well that she would never give it for free. The Hydra sighs and says that everyone treats her like a villain, but she reminds him that she never poisoned him. That was Hercules. Hygiene is completely baffled. This changes the whole Namek. Even after hearing the truth, he's still stunned. The Hydra offers the vial and says that she has waited a long time for him to come and claim it. Chiron pauses for a moment and then takes it, opens the vial and drinks it immediately. What the hell? Antidote or not, his whole body starts to burn. The poison seems to rush through his leg even faster. His vision becomes blurry and he collapses. Seeing that, Hagen panics and asks him what he did. Then he hears laughter. Chiron is on the ground crying tears of joy because his leg finally feels normal again. For 3,890 years he had lived with that pain in the world of mythical creatures. He had forgotten what a life without agony felt like. The Hydra gives him a gentle pat and says she can only imagine how horrible it must have been. Hagen and Lucio run towards him and call out to him. Sometime later, at Chiron's house, they sit wondering why he is taking so long. Hagen starts complaining, but Lucio tells him to stop accusing an honest fellow like Chiron. He deflates, thinking that he probably doesn't even deserve the payment since the Hydra herself gave them the saliva. Sitting there, he realizes that he doesn't really have any case to argue. Then, Chiron opens the door and apologizes for the wait. He says it took longer than expected to find what he needed. Our lad is about to complain, but Lucio covers his mouth and says they waited just fine. She asks if he was looking for his bow, and he says yes. The bow was originally meant for Hercules, but Chiron believes it suits Hagen better. Being a complete idiot, our boy complains that he would rather have points and assumes that Chiron simply isn't good at giving rewards. Thinking it's just some random item, he takes it anyway. At that moment, the door opens. Both of them ask who is there and a man enters apologizing for barging in like that. Lucio seems to know him, and yes, that's what really makes his entrance look too cool. It's Ares, the god of war. Still clueless, Hagen mutters that all he knows is this guy is the biggest troublemaker on Olympus. Lucio warns him to keep an eye on him. Ares is the prince of the gods, son of Zeus and Hera. Ares says it's strange to see a mortal traveling with a nymph. He asks if he's Hagen Lee and the MC says yes. Ares suddenly rushes towards him, saying that he has finally found him, and Hagen can't even react, but Ares falls to the ground. He asks for help, leaving Hagen totally confused. At 27 years old, Hagen Lee became the first human to make a god his meal. Later, on a train, Lucio says that this strange carriage is incredibly fast. He tells him that it's a train, not a car, and to lower his voice because there are people around. The MC is exhausted, he just finished one job and has been dragged into another. Then a notification appears on his phone, minus 1 lakh coins from Chiron, plus a bonus of 1 lakh. His tiredness vanishes instantly, until the man behind them tells them to stop shouting. Lucio laughs at him, but he doesn't care. He has just earned $15 lakh. The real problem now is the urgent mission, to save the hunter of Ares in 5 hours. Back at home he asks what this job is all about. Ares says that he supported a hunter, but when he checked the man's location, it showed that he would die today. Hagun asks why Ares can't do it himself. Lucio says that would violate the law of causality. Chiron explains that the gods cannot interfere with human life and death. No matter how much they hate it, not even the gods can control fate. But Ares says that this case is different. He cannot let this hunter die. He has staked everything on him. There's a kind of hunter at the level of myths. The gods can pour points onto them and give them more power. As the hunter becomes more famous, the god also gains more. But if that hunter dies before completing the mission, the god loses all the points invested. Chiron calls him mad for putting everything in the hands of a single hunter. It turns out that Ares is a gambling addict and now he's trembling and asking for help one last time. Not only did he use his own points, but secretly he also used his father's. Hagun and Lucio freeze because if Ares is referring to his father's points, then he is burned through all of Zeus's fortune. Back on the train, the MC mutters that he is not a miracle worker. How is he supposed to protect a hunter with myth-level talent? Even so, since it's urgent and Ares is paying, the reward must be huge. Lucio asks where they are going and he shows him the ticket to Busan. Inside a cave, there are monster corpses everywhere. Sungjun shouts to everyone to get ready. The next wave is about to arrive. The whole guild prepares for battle as the beasts come charging in. Sungjun cuts through them like it's nothing. So this is the guy loaded with mythical points who just wipes out monsters like they're nothing. Even after all that they kill, the waves keep coming. Tammy's future waifu, Sour Boy, is also there, slashing monsters right by her side. I'm John asked for a report, and she says that the back of the cave is clear for now. He tells everyone to make use of the break and get some rest. The team sits down. The leader asks how far the boss is, and someone says they'll soon reach the gate. They were struggling, but making it this far and in half the usual time is still impressive. Time Jion says he heard that even rank 6 hunters had to retreat, so the boss must be absurdly strong. A teammate says it's a 10-meter monster. They might have gotten a new chance, but by the time they reach it, everyone will be exhausted. Time John praises them for retreating and calling for reinforcements. Then he gets up and says it's time to move. He wants to get home quickly. The group stops in front of a huge door, knowing that the boss is just behind it. When it opens, Time Jion tells the tanks to go in first. On the other side, there's an even bigger cavern than before. The strange thing is, it's empty. Everyone looks around confused. They are sure that this is the boss's room. Then it falls onto Erin's clothes. She wonders why water is falling from above and looks up. Her face changes instantly and she shouts for everyone to run. Too late, a wave of violet liquid falls on them. Tame Jun calls out to her as several adventurers start getting swept away. He turns on the informant and demands to know why none of this matches his report. The man starts trembling, then tentacles come out of his mouth as he whispers that he brought everything his mother wanted. It was a trap. Above them hangs a giant jelly-like monster, covered in eyes and with tentacles stretching downwards. Then the scene shifts to a beach. Hagun and Lucio stare at the portal that he has to enter to save, well, whoever it is. Yes, as if it was some big secret, we all know who he's going after. Yushu, annoyed, asks why she can't come along too. He tells her to be serious. This gate is the second largest after Tartarus. He knows that she's upset because yesterday she almost died, but he only has one helmet. Then an idea strikes him and he offers her cash, telling her she can buy all the sweets she wants. Lucio returns the money to him and says she is not that easy to bribe. He shrugs and says it's a pity because with that money you could buy 50 toffees. Her face changes the moment she realizes just how much that is. While she's still thinking about it, he enters the portal and reminds her that if a stranger shows up, she should send them away. A flash of light and he's inside the dungeon. This time, it is a cave. He steps on something unpleasant and wonders what it was. Then he sees a pile of dead monsters up ahead. Now he understands why the people inside are in trouble. There are too many monsters. The bad news is that he's also here and has to get past all of them. If he had his bicycle, this would be easy. But it's not here, and his suit is still on cooldown. 10 seconds later and he has already run out of options. Then the shop menu pops up, reminding him that he can buy something in case of emergency. For a moment he gets excited, but when he checks, summoning his bicycle costs him 100,000 points. What kind of bicycle costs a billion wo? While he's complaining, someone comes up behind him and asks what he's doing. He jumps and accidentally hits the purchase button for the bicycle. It's Lucio. She says there was no way she would let him go alone, and just like that, 100,000 points are gone. He asks her what she's due with her. He already told her that she couldn't come. Stubborn as always, Lucio says that she already told him she would come. Hagen starts scolding her when something lights up beside him. Lucio tells him to look, and sure enough the bike appears. But this isn't the old one. She bought a new model. She gets excited instantly, and that's a good thing too, because a swarm of monsters is attacking. She throws Lucio on the back and speeds through the dungeon. Back in the boss room, the violet slime keeps falling. Sang-jin realizes that this was the boss's plan from the very beginning. Now almost everyone is trapped in the tentacles except for him. While he looks for a way to save them, an attack comes from above. He barely avoids it and unleashes a storm of slashes. The attacks keep coming from all sides, and he knows that sooner or later they'll catch him. The problem is how to fight against a boss that's stuck to the ceiling. This is nothing like what they were told to expect. Even worse, he has never heard of a monster that can control humans. If this thing gets out of the dungeon, the world will be in chaos. It has to die here. Inside a tentacle, Irina floats unconscious. Then her eyes suddenly open and she destroys everything around her with a burst of slashes. Skong-jun comes running over, relieved that she made it out. He asks her how she is, and she says she's fine but almost at her limit. They need to bring down the boss quickly and free the others. She hurries to draw its attention and create an opening. The boss fires off more attacks, but she dodges them all and strikes with her daggers. The blow lands, creating the opening Skong-jun had been waiting for. He activates the divine power of Ares, the punishment of Mars. The energy builds up and then bursts, swallowing the boss in a massive column of flames. A few seconds later, he's completely exhausted. This is one of the rare mythical class abilities, so that boss should be dead. It's the move that allows him to keep his title as guild leader, and no boss has survived it before. But of course, this one survived. Otherwise, the MC wouldn't be here to save this idiot, and that cursed eye wouldn't still be watching him. The poor fellow can't believe that the monster is still alive, but Aaron shouts at him to stop standing there and run away. Instead, he simply apologizes and remains frozen. While the boss charges with another attack, he says this is the end, becoming completely dramatic for not being strong enough to save his friends. The eye swells up, ready to fire. Then, a motorcycle crashes through it. The MC smiles and says, "The delivery is here." Both Seo-chon and Aran just stare, completely speechless. Meanwhile, Hagen is furious because his $100 and 0 coin bike is already covered in slime, but at least he made an amazing entrance. Through the smoke, the guild leaders can only watch, trying to figure out why a guy just showed up on a motorcycle. Then someone steps forward and says that humans gave this thing a terrible name. Lucio, in full biker mode, declares himself the elite rider. The two just look at the strange girl, trying to figure out who she is. Meanwhile, Lucio stands there dramatically striking a pose and telling them not to lock themselves up in front of the great Lucio. Then, the guy with the monster mouth appears behind her. For a second, he thinks Mega Racer Lucio is finished. But Heijin comes running in, pulls the nasty creature out of his mouth and asks what kind of messy people they are. The poor fellow who was being devoured faints instantly in Lucio's arms. Then Heijin catches a flash of light and turns just in time to see that the boss is still alive, even with his eye pierced. Immediately, she realizes that this must be the real boss of the dungeon. It seems she arrived just in time. She asks which one of them is Sealing Chowder Park. From the back, Sealing Chowder says it's him. Our guy walks up and circles around him, asking if he's hurt and giving him a quick once-over. He says the fellow looks familiar to him. Then he remembers that he saw him in Tartarus. He never thought he would run into that hunter here. Small world. Sang-jin shouts at him to focus and kill the boss already. But Haijin just shrugs and asks what that has got to do with him. Hunters kill monsters. He's just the delivery there. There is no way he is fighting. Actually, his suit is on cooldown, so he can't do much anyway. That's when Eren's face hardens. She says she didn't expect him to be the type who plays with people's lives. He tells her to relax. All he's saying is that Selengin should be the one to finish off this boss, not him. Of course, Selengin thinks that's madness. He doesn't have any weapon left and is completely exhausted. Then Hyjin takes out her phone, delivering her, "It's the weapon of Ares that you got." A brilliant glow fills the room, and both Selingen and Eren shield their eyes, trying to see what's happening. Selengen's eyes widen as a great legendary sword appears before him, a sword believed to exist only in myth, the end of wars. A man turns around to leave, saying his job is done, but Selingen shouts and asks who sent the sword and how he can move through the dungeons if he's not a hunter. Hyjin turns around, his arms glowing with divine power, and says, "You can call me the Divine Delivery Man." He gets on his bicycle and adds that they'll talk later. Selingen is left completely baffled, wondering who that lunatic is. At the same time, the boss starts charging up another attack. With no other choice, Selingen grabs the sword, his last shot. The moment it touches it, red energy bursts upwards and a new power floods his body. For a moment, his entire form changes. He awakens completely in the mythical form of Ares. Eren can only watch the power surging from him while the boss prepares his final blow, but now Selingen stands calm and sharp. He gets ready to attack and says that for the first time, he truly feels he can win. He activates the divine power of Ares. The sword becomes enormous and bursts into flames. With a single movement, he charges forward. The boss counters with his own attack, a full-on clash in Dragon Ball style. But unlike Goku, Selingen is not the protagonist. Even so, his attack crushes the monsters and completely vaporizes him. The explosion forms an X and lights up the entire cavern. When the smoke clears, Eren can only stare. Not only did he kill the boss, he also destroyed the entire ceiling. This guy's mad. At least Eren's power is finally fading away. Otherwise, he would have been too shattered. Eren picks up the unconscious boy and says he did well, but he's even more curious about that biker kid. Back in the city, our boy is starving and just wants some food. Even the divine delivery boy needs to eat. Meanwhile, the news is already reporting that the gate at Hanbei City has been cleared, and according to them, it's all thanks to the country's strongest hunter, Sungjin Park, or so they say. Lying on a hospital bed, Selingen mutters, "That's all anyone is talking about," but he knows that without the delivery boy, he would never have stood a chance. He looks to one side, lost in his thoughts. That fellow is not an ordinary person, especially if he is delivering artifacts from the gods. At that moment, someone comes running down the corridor. Doyle bursts in shouting, calling for the guildmaster and asking if he's alright. But the moment he sees the boss, he mutters that the bugger doesn't even look that badly hurt. Then he gets excited, saying he heard that the boy completely thrashed the boss. No wonder he's the third strongest. He also asks what that red sword was and where the old one went. Sungjin simply says that it broke. Doyle is stunned. That sword cost 100,000. So how did it break? But the boy tells him not to worry because the new one is much better. An item delivered by the divine courier? Doyle almost loses control and starts drooling. I don't know what he's thinking, but Sungjin says it's good that he came because he needs a favor. Now that he knows who that guy is, he wants Doyle to find his address. Doyle asks why, and of course the boss wants to recruit him for the guild. Then the scene shifts to the temple of Ares. Ares enters with a smile and says that since the boy has returned, he must have delivered the sword. The courier says not to worry, everything went smoothly and the hunter survived. Ares relaxes and says it's no wonder the boy has such a solid reputation. Then he tells him to come in because he has a reward for him. The boy smiles, thinking there's no way he'll fall into a trap set by the biggest troublemaker on Olympus. Meanwhile, Lucio tells him to show some respect since this man is a prince of Olympus. That's when Hyjin Lee suddenly remembers, right? This guy is royalty. As they walk through the temple, our boy keeps looking around. Then Ares stops and tells Lucio to wait there. Only Hyjin Lee can come with him. She doesn't even get an explanation and our boy just waves goodbye. They continue walking through the temple corridors and then Hyjin looks surprised. The door ahead is massive and Aries says it weighs 3 tons. Our boy asks how they're supposed to open this door that looks like something out of Hunter x Hunter. And Aries basically says, just use Nen. And boom, it opens. Inside there's a ridiculous amount of treasure. Everything in there belongs to the heir of Olympus and to the god of war himself, Ares. Naturally, our boy immediately asks how much it's all worth and if he can pick something. One would expect Ares to be stingy, but actually he says he can choose whatever he wants. Then he bends down, says he knows something good and pulls out a golden box. Hyojin Lee asks what it is and Ares says he doesn't know either. So our boy asks why he would give him back. Darius says that even for him it's a rare treasure, so it's worth holding on to. He doesn't know exactly what it is, but he's sure it's not useless. After all, it came from an Olympian god who considered it one of his most prized treasures. He's also curious about it, so he's convinced it should be a great reward. But judging by Jin Lee's face, it doesn't look promising. He calls it rubbish and Ares tells him to show it. Then, a boy pulls out a small wooden stick. Yes, maybe one of those jokes that ends up breaking later. Out of nowhere, the scene shifts to a vast ocean where a large ship is sailing and a man shouts that they have a problem. They've run into a group of mermaids, and yes, that's a serious problem. Poor Jason is about to get caught by their song. Then it cuts back to our boy hitting Ares with the stick. Everything is a mess and now we are back with our boy waking up. His body feels exhausted. It seems like he slept for a long time. After getting that strange wooden stick from Ares, he went home, passed out, and now he wakes up to Lucy dreaming about sweets. He tells the cursed girl to wake up, but then realizes she's probably tired too, so he gently tucks her in with a blanket. Later on, at a convenience store, he buys an energy drink and some chocolate, thanks the cashier, and looks to the side. A poster announces that the hunter exam will take place in 3 days. He hadn't even thought about becoming a hunter, but hiding his identity while entering and leaving dungeons is getting more and more difficult. Maybe he should give it a try. When he reaches home, Lucio asks for sweets. He says he brought something nice, but then a system notification pops up. It's a request from Hephaestus and he tells him that they'll eat later. Using his new motorcycle, he reaches the scorching place and greets the dwarf god. The little one is happy that he arrived so quickly and our boy asks what's going on. He says that people have been talking about how he saved Chiron's leg and helped Jin. Jin feels uncomfortable because he didn't think the news would spread so quickly and says it was just luck. Then he asks what today's delivery is and the dwarf looks back. A man approaches and Hephaestus says it's the perfect moment. Lucio seems surprised when he sees his face, while Jin, as always, has no idea who he is. The protagonist says that this guy is very fast with sea deliveries. His name is Jason and he works for Argo Deliveries, and just like Jin, he had no idea who he was. I checked and yes, he's a mythical sailor from the Argonauts. I still don't fully get it, but apparently he exists in mythology, you know what I mean? He introduces himself and says our lad can call him the Great Adventurer. Basically, Jason leads a group called the Argonauts, made up of famous travelers and heroes. He thanks our son for healing his adoptive father's leg. Then he asks if they can get down to business and Jin says yes. That's when Jason explains that his company has been having problems. A bunch of sirens showed up on their route and now they can't get through. Earlier, whenever sirens appeared, Orpheus used to take care of them. But right now, he's away on a long journey, so they can't do much. That's why Jason came after hearing rumors about the great delivery man, Hyojin Lee. Hyojin asks him if he really wants him to deal with the sirens. Jason says yes, that's exactly it. Our lad is quite puzzled. Is he a messenger or a monster slayer? Why does everyone want me to go kill something? Jason tells him not to say no just yet. Once he hears the reward, he'll change his mind. The job pays 500,000. That's a crazy reward. So Hagen gets interested immediately. Then Hephaestus reminds him that sirens live in the ocean, which makes things complicated if all he has is a motorcycle. MC is so puzzled that he didn't even think about the fact that sirens live in the sea. MC tells him not to worry, he has the right magic for that. Soon they'll be on a ship heading towards the Melodic Islands. Jason points out the islands up ahead and Hagen says he'll handle it. Jason thanks him and promises that they'll send a ship to pick him up later. So our boy jumps and calls out to Lucio. Wait, did he just start up the bike? Is that thing also made for water? Not exactly. Hephaestus enchanted his hat with water magic so that the bike could cross the sea. But Lucio warns him. Clearly, he has no idea what sirens really are. He imagines pretty sirens, but Lucio says their songs are deadly. Even Odysseus had to cover his ears to pass safely. A small group of them could even take down a kraken. Hagen tells him not to worry when the monsters get violent, that the best response is to defeat them. The sirens notice that a human and a nymph are approaching and whisper among themselves. They dive under the water, ready to face him. Meanwhile, our boy keeps moving forward. Then Lucio warns him that something is approaching and a huge monster bursts in with its jaws wide open. Before it can attack, Hagen hits it in the face with the wooden stake. He remembers that Ares said that a gift from Zeus had to be powerful. So he asks the siren how it feels to be hit by an enchanted wooden stick plus 99. The siren just stares at him. It didn't bother me at all. She says it felt like being hit with a pool noodle. That's when Hagen realizes that Ares totally cheated him. The stick is worthless. Afterwards, the siren searched the area, trying to find where the two disappeared. Hidden behind a rock with Lucio's helmet activated, he asks him what he can see. She says that the monsters went in the opposite direction. So for now they are safe, but right in front of them is the siren's nest. Remember that Jason said the easiest way is not to fight all of them, it's to kill the queen. Once she dies, the others lose their power. Lucio says that's madness, especially with Ares's useless staff. Hagen grabs it and says he really wants to give Ares a good thrashing, but he still has one more option, the shop. Money solves everything. A golden orb of Zeus thunder appears and yes, it cost a lot, 150,000 points, about $1.5 million. Inside the siren's lair, the queen is having fun. A siren complains that they haven't eaten in 10 days and asks to go hunting, but the queen refuses. Obvious, the one who usually ruins their hunts isn't around. An opportunity like this won't come again. They'll wait patiently until a big human ship passes by and then attack. She tells them to be patient because soon they'll have their perfect meal, and our lord hears everything. He's surprised that she is casually planning to wipe out an entire ship full of people. Lucio quickly points out that the target is obviously Jason's crew. Then Hagen suddenly asks her if she remembers the black ramen they ate. She says of course it was amazing. He tells her that if she helps with his plan, he'll buy her the deluxe version. She immediately perks up and says she is ready. He leans in and whispers the plan to her. She asks him if he's sure and warns him that it's risky, but he takes off the helmet, puts it on and says he's counting on her. He trusts her and she flies off, promising not to let him down. He knows that the hat only works within a limited range, so now the mermaids can see him. He shouts at them, calling them stupid fish. The dangerous beauties turn around, surprised that he has entered. They demand to know how he got into the temple. He turns around, slaps his backside and tells them to come and kill him. The queen doesn't find it funny at all. She orders them to capture him. The monsters run after him and he runs for his life. But ever since he took off his helmet, the movement of the water is about to come to a halt. At that moment, he calls out to Lucio, who's lying on his back holding the divine orb. He activates it, says he's out, and the single object destroys the entire temple. The sirens chasing him get buried under the rubble and everything collapses. He only intended to kill the queen, but arriving late forced him to eliminate all of them. At least Jason's route should be safe now. Lucio appears and congratulates him, but Hagen feels something is off. If the queen died, why didn't he receive a reward? Then a monster emerges from the rubble and grabs Lucio's leg. The queen demands to know what they think they are doing. She says she can no longer hear her daughter's breathing. Hagen shouts as Lucio is about to be eaten. He activates stage 2 of his suit and charges forward. He strikes the queen on the cheek and shouts at her to let go of Lucio. The blow makes her spin through the water. Our boy is impressed by how strong stage 2 is. But then the queen disappears. He looks underwater and suddenly she appears right next to him and grabs his leg. Yeah, that's bad. She drags him down into the depths and says she'll keep pulling him down until he runs out of air. Hagen starts to think that this might really be the end. He has just bought his first flat and still has plenty of points left to spend. He refuses to dilate this. It's time to crush this boss. His big stick gets charged up to 100% power. He hits her on the head with such force that it leaves her trembling. Then he follows it up with a brutal combo straight to her face. The beating lights up the ocean and Lucio is shocked to see him still standing. With the giant club in his hand, he declares that justice has been served. The sirens are over. Later, at a Chinese restaurant, Lucio eats happily. She says that the fancy food is Delaine's. He smiles, happy that she likes it. From now on, if she wants anything, she just has to ask him. He'll pay for it. She knows that things could have gone wrong, but thanks to Lucio, they survived and defeated the sirens. Of course, she still makes sure to mention that she gave the queen quite a few blows. Then he tells her to have fun. She earned it after all. Now she has 633,000 points, which is about $6,000. Even after spending 150,000 on Zeus's power, she made a huge profit. Now she is really getting interested in fighting monsters, and that reminds her of the hunter exam. Lucio asks what that is. She jokes that it's fried pork and tells him to dip it in the sauce. While they keep eating, she says it's delicious. Then he tells her that the whole dish is hers. Too lazy to keep dipping, yaar. She simply pours all the sauce on top, and he immediately gives her a knock on the head for having no manners. Later, they return home completely exhausted. She ate a ton, and he tells her she went overboard. He has been working non-stop and starts thinking about taking a break. But then the doorbell rings and someone asks if he's at home. He drags himself and says he's come in. At the door, someone wearing a mask, glasses and a cap asks him if he's Hatchinley. Our guy immediately thinks he's some creep and shuts the door, saying he's not going to buy anything. The stranger keeps insisting and Hagen gets annoyed. What kind of door-to-door salesman knows your full name? Lucio asks who it is and he says it's some arrogant salesman. Outside, the fellow keeps banging on the door, saying he knows exactly who Jin Lee, the divine messenger, is. Now the MC is in trouble. He opens the door and sees Seo Jin holding a huge sword. Our guy asks why he's here and Seo Jin says it's simple. He wants to recruit him into the Youngwin Guild. Later at a cafe, Seo Jin says that before talking business, there's something he wants to give him for helping him out last time. Hagen takes it and instantly gets 500,000. Easy money. With a smug air, he says it wasn't necessary to give him so much. Seo Jin tells him not to worry and that they should get down to business. If he joins the guild, he'll receive a signing bonus of 200,000 and 300,000 per year. He would also earn extra depending on his work. Seo Jin asks him what it is. Of course, no hunter would refuse money like that. Back at the hospital, Duoji was told that Jin wasn't even a real hunter. He didn't have a license. Even so, he was making deliveries inside the Tartarus. He got through the 8 trigrams and somehow ended up being dragged into another dungeon. License or not, bringing him in would make the guild a fortune. Seong Jin is excited, but the boy apologizes and refuses. Money keeps being offered to Seong Jin until our boy apologizes and says he's going to decline the offer. The idiot was already talking as if it was a done deal, but Jin tells him again that he won't accept the offer. Outside, Seong Jin desperately says that they can change the offer, but our boy says he doesn't want to join any guild. The guild leader asks what could possibly be better than such a big offer. He lifts his phone and says the answer is simple: deliveries. As soon as he accepts her request, a bright flash blinds Seong Jin and the boy disappears. Then they are in the mountains and Lucio points out that he was supposed to be resting today. Sweating profusely, he says that was the plan. He didn't expect the client to be at the top of a mountain. Normally, accepting a request would teleport him straight to the client, but this time he landed at the bottom and has to climb the rest himself. He blames Seong Jin for wasting time with that guild speech when he never wanted to join in the first place. He may have suits with cooldowns, but he doesn't actually have any powers, and deliveries pay much better anyway, so Seong Jin can forget about it. After some time, they finally reach the top. Both of them are exhausted when suddenly his face turns serious. In front of him are huge black slimes covered in eyes. He wonders what on earth this thing is, and Lucio says she has no idea either. Then he steps on one of them and they get the same feeling as with that creature from the dungeon. He asks her if she knows any mythical creature like this, but she doesn't. Just as he says he might have an idea, the ground starts shaking. A monster appears behind him and he thinks they're finished. Then a golden figure comes running in and throws a punch, blasting it to pieces. Surprised, he hears the man complaining that he's too old for fights like this. The scarred man sighs because his body isn't what it used to be anymore. Then he speaks over the radio and says that he has heard a lot about the boy. Our boy is shocked by the legend standing there and wonders if this is the client. He asks Lucio who the man is and she says of course she knows. He is the hero who completed the 12 labors given by Hera, the one who helped the gods defeat the giants, Hercules. Embarrassed, the hero says that old story makes him shy. The boy then realizes that this is also the man who shot the poisoned arrow into Chiron's leg. Hercules asks if it was him who helped Chiron recover. Awkwardly, he says that it was the Hydra that did the job, not him. Hercules gives him a pat on the back, almost tearing the suit, and says he is still grateful. He confirms that Lucio was ninth. He is Hercules, a demigod from the past who now protects Olympus. Skipping a long introduction, the boy and Lucio simply give their names. Hercules explains that he called them because he needs help. When asked with what, he points to a cave and tells them to have a look. During the giant attack, that cave became a gateway for monsters to enter Olympus. Lately, strange creatures with tentacles have been coming out and he has never seen anything like them before, so he thinks they might be from another world. The boy suspects that this is connected to the dungeon monster. Hercules says the job is simple, find out where the monsters are coming from. At that moment, a mission appears with a 24-hour limit. If he fails or cancels, he will lose 200,000 coins. What the hell? But one look at Hercules' huge muscles and he quickly says that he'll do his best to sort it out quickly. Hercules says it's exactly as his wife Abby described. That reminds him that Abby was the first Dietz who opened the door for his first delivery. He starts thinking about how strangely connected all these myths are. Then the system says it will guide him, but the map seems off. He stares at a cliff and asks how he's supposed to go in that direction. Hercules grabs him and tells him not to worry, that he'll take him there quickly. Before he can even reply, he's already been thrown. Back at Sang-jin's guild, Do-hyun quickly rushes to call the guildmaster. The leader tells him not to barge into the office, but Do-hyun immediately asks how things went with the delivery boy. He says it was a total rejection. The boy barely listened. Do-hyun finds it odd, since the offer would be life-changing for anyone. But Sang-jun says the boy literally disappeared. Do-hyun thinks it's a weak excuse, but Sang-jun says maybe not. After all, Hae-jin appeared in that dungeon in the same way. And after all, he even received a message from Ares himself confirming that he had sent that item. Sang-jin says he'll try to recruit the boy again. Meanwhile, he's just sitting there playing Dark Souls. Then Do-hyun realizes that his sword still looks brand new. Once he got Ares' sword, he sold the old one for a huge price. He planned to use part of that money to recruit the boy, but clearly failed. Do-hyun says maybe he missed the news. A buyer from Japan wants it. The leader then says it's time to prepare the shipment because lately, every time a super expensive item is sold, thieves attack it on the way. That sword is too valuable to risk losing. He starts thinking about hiring someone and then remembers that the boy is a courier. Smiling, he says that he just got an idea. Back with our boy, Hercules throws sends him into the ravine. He is completely shaken, wondering why he had to be thrown like that. Then, the system says that he has almost arrived. Afraid of breaking all his bones, he pulls out his little motorcycle in midair. Riding Duke, he speeds down and then crashes hard. Smoke rises, but the crazy shock absorbers of the bike save them. He knows that's the only reason they survived. Hercules almost managed to get both of them killed. He even tells Lucio, who fainted, to wake up because they made it. Now the problem is that he has no idea what he's looking for. He starts complaining about searching for something he can't even name. When a giant foot hits his back, the whole area shakes, and Lucio grabs his leg, trying to figure out what's going on. He remembers that the same kind of earthquake happened when they encountered that dungeon monster. Then he hears someone say the name Hercules. Confused, he looks back and sees a man carrying something huge on his back. If he's right, that's Atlas. The guy absolutely dwarfs him. He can't believe there's a giant down here. Atlas asks him if he knows Hercules. Twisted by the pressure, the boy explains that Hercules hired him to investigate the area. The moment he mentions the monsters, Atlas starts laughing. Carrying a shining orb, he says that Hercules must be desperate if he's sending someone like this. But the boy wants answers. Why is there a giant down here? And what about the giant ball? Then, boldly, he asks if Atlas knows anything about what's going on. Atlas says he has no reason to help him or Hercules. He asks Lucio why the giant seems so angry and she can't believe he doesn't know. This is Atlas, the titan forced to carry the celestial sphere after the titans lost the Great War, and that punishment came from Zeus, Hercules' father. So yes, that explains the grudge. He thinks Hercules really should have warned him about all this drama. Atlas asks if they've finished talking and the boy is surprised that the giant heard everything. Atlas says, just as the nymph said, that the monsters of the earth have nothing to do with him. Now Jin is caught up in another god level mess when he was only trying to make deliveries. For some reason, he tries to act cute and asks if Atlas can really say no to this adorable face. Atlas tells him to keep quiet before he gets crushed, but the boy says he won't ask for it for free. If Atlas tells him the truth, he'll do any favor in return. That makes the Titan's expression change and Lucio starts to panic, saying he's being far too reckless. Atlas laughs and says it's absurd. A human can't do a favor for a god, but our boy simply says he might be surprised. The Titan thinks it over and then agrees. For a human, he's got guts, that's why Atlas wants a golden apple. If he can bring one back without dying, then he'll deserve to hear what the slimes are planning. Lucio immediately says that's impossible and tells him not to accept. Golden apples are incredibly rare. They only grow on Gaia's trees and the gods usually give them as wedding gifts. Before he can continue, he covers his mouth. Then he asks Atlas, "Is that really all you want?" Suddenly, he remembers that Atlas is not a god, he's a titan. Atlas confirms it and gives his word, but our boy goes further and tells him to swear by the river Styx. In the myth, if a god breaks an oath made on that river, he loses his power for a while. Atlas smiles and extends his little finger, impressed. Even so, he agrees and swears by the river Styx. Our boy takes out his phone and says, now he can't take it back. Since a golden apple only costs 1,000 points, Atlas is basically doomed. He buys one in the shop and a golden apple appears in his hand. He lifts it up immediately and says, "Here's your order." Atlas just stares, looking completely dumbfounded, as if this brat must be joking. Outside the cave, purple slimes are crawling everywhere. Hercules keeps smashing all the ones that come out while wondering why Hajin and Lucio are taking so long. Then it hits him. Did he even mention Athos? He ignores it, thinking they'll manage somehow. Then a blue flash appears in the distance. Someone comes running in at full speed. It's our boy, soaring through the sky on his motorcycle while the suit merges with it. He arrives so fast that Hercules is ready to praise him until the bike's wheel hits him right in the face. Yes, he just crashed into a god. He stands there awkwardly, though honestly it feels a bit intentional after having been thrown earlier. A little later, he's lying on the ground apologizing and claiming it was an accident. Hercules says it doesn't matter, that the boy couldn't hurt him anyway. But our boy points out that his face says otherwise. Even with his face and finger bent, Hercules insists that he's absolutely fine. With his arms crossed, Hercules says, "Hajin came back too quickly to have learnt anything. That trip must have been pointless." Thinking back, he is sure that Atlas is still furious about the time he stole a bunch of golden apples, which honestly is quite low when the fellow can't even put that giant sphere down. So Hercules says that since Hajin at least made an effort, he won't punish him, until our boy casually mentions that Atlas told him everything. Hercules doesn't believe him at first, but then the boy comes closer and pulls out a golden apple, saying that's what made Atlas talk. Then we jump back to the cave just as Hajin showed the apple. Atlas was stunned and demanded to know how a human got hold of one. A boy honestly says that you can buy it with a single click in the shop. Atlas tells him to hand it over, but he flatly refuses. He says he doesn't want to get cheated, so Atlas has to talk first. The Titan argues that wasn't the deal, but our boy raises the apple as if he's about to take a bite. Back to the present, Hajin says that's how he got Atlas to spill everything. Hercules realizes that this boy really isn't normal. No wonder he was able to fix his mentor's leg. The problem is that cheeky attitude reminds him too much of his younger self. In the end, he simply tells him to just give the information already. Our boy says that Atlas spoke in riddles, so he didn't fully understand it either. Then he repeats it. The earth will be divided into 7 parts and blue flames will appear here and there. Hercules immediately starts sweating. This is worse than he feared. Just as he thought, these creatures came from another world and from the only place he didn't want. Now he remembers. Hajin is one of the few people who can move between the human world and the world of myths. And somehow, fate also placed an ordinary nymph by his side. For him, the 3 goddesses of fate are both cruel and beautiful. He cannot understand why they place such a heavy burden on a young human. Now even I am curious. Then our boy extends his hand and Hercules asks him what he wants. Hajin says he shouldn't have to give any explanations, it should be obvious. He has finished the delivery, so now it's time to collect. Later, while Hercules is sitting on top of the dead monsters, someone suddenly appears and asks him what he thinks of the boy after meeting him in person. It's Hermes, greeting him as he says he arrived there after the two had already left. Hercules speaks to him with respect, but Hermes says it's not necessary. Even so, the big fellow says he can't treat him indifferently. Hermes helped him a lot during the 12 labors. Hermes sighs and says that he is not here for a chat. He also tells Hercules to stop ignoring Ares, but Hercules just shrugs. That fellow is always looking for fights and is disrespectful, so he stopped talking to him. Hermes laughs and says that Hercules really is bad at making friends. Then he asks if things are still bad with Atlas. Hercules immediately says that there is no way he is going there to apologize to that rascal. Then Hermes asks if the place Atlas described to the boy is the one both of them are referring to. Hercules repeats the riddle about the division of earth and fire and says that it must be that place because the prophecy matches it exactly. Hermes lifts his staff, ready to set off, saying that they need to start getting ready. He says he'll inform everyone, but Hercules tells him not to bother. He says that the boy is the one who's tied to all this, but Hermes just smiles and tells him to relax. That kind of message is his job. Then he leaves and tells Hercules to give his regards to the old man for him. After he leaves, Hercules gets fired up and looks at the creatures, saying that it's finally time to deal with them. Back with Hagen, Lucio is fast asleep. Our boy yanks off the blanket, sits up half asleep and mumbles for 5 more minutes. He tells him to get moving now, that they have to leave. Still groggy, she asks where they're heading so early and he reminds her that today is the hunter exam. Still confused, she says she remembers him mentioning it, but she has no idea what a hunter exam is. He calls her an idiot for agreeing to come without knowing, and she just says that staying at home is boring. Meanwhile, he has already packed everything, his registration card, supplies, and of course the wooden bat. Lucio shows up with her hair all messy like a broom and says that she's ready too. He puts on a cap and tells her to hurry up. At the association, the two arrive and look at all the flashy hunters, while our guy looks like just an ordinary nobody. But underneath the hoodie, the cunning fellow had come prepared. A man with a microphone announces that the exam has started and calls out the first numbers. The first candidate faces 3 goblins with a huge axe in hand. The goblins pounce on him and he slices one in half. Our guy thinks that 3 goblins is just too easy. Any normal person could get through that, so he thinks the test isn't about whether you can kill, but about how you do it. Then they call number 38, that's him. So yes, the hunter exam is basically an octagon fight. Standing inside, our guy plans to quietly get through without drawing any attention. But the moment his suit activates, a red-haired recruiter in the crowd notices him. It's that woman from the rival guild, that dangerous one. Then the chapter slips away from him for a moment. Another guy destroys the goblins with his bare hands and everyone starts hyping him up. But a chubby boy munching on chips says that strength alone isn't enough. He still lacks what a real hunter truly needs. The blonde next to him agrees and says that maybe the real standout hasn't shown up yet. The redhead tells both the old men to keep quiet. Then she says that these fighters aren't even good enough for a second-rate guild. It's Johan, the same woman who caused chaos in the Black Dragon Guild. Pretty wild. She slaughtered the hunters and wrecked everything, and now she calmly judges the rookies. She wonders how everything ended up like this. Not long ago, Black Dragon was the second best guild in the country, and with that dragon tattoo on her thigh, she had real influence. But after the 8th trigram scandal, the guild lost a lot of support. Now she is stuck, looking for new members and hoping to find at least one decent recruit. Then candidate 38 is called. Lucio claps from a distance, while our boy just stands there awkwardly. He wants to pass, but actually, he doesn't want to stand out and make life more difficult. The goblins attack him while he tries to go unnoticed, but the danger sense of his suit activates and he dodges them at the last second. He quickly realizes that these things are much slower than the mermaids he fought. Honestly, he could probably dodge them even without the suit. The red-haired woman watches closely and says, "Number 38 moves in an interesting way." At the same time, she feels that there is something familiar about him. He still hasn't attacked, he's just dodging with ease. After a while, he decides to throw a punch, just enough to kill it without making a scene. But the moment his fist lands, the goblin turns to dust right in front of him. She instantly knows who he is, the one she came looking for. A little later, someone congratulates him and hands him his badge. It turns out he got the 3rd highest score in history. They say he will surely become a great hunter and congratulate him again. Hygiene feels that becoming a hunter seemed too easy for something so important. Lucio comes running, praising him for the fight. Then he says it's time to eat. He grabs her and says they're gonna buy pork. Then someone steps in. She introduces herself politely and says it's a pleasure to meet him. With red hair and eyes, her name is Johan from the Black Dragon Guild. He recognizes her immediately and knows she's bad news. She says his fight impressed her and starts to ask if he would join Black Dragon. Before she can finish, he walks past her and tells her he's not interested. Stunned, she tells him to wait, but he just thanks her and says he doesn't plan to join any guild. She refuses to let him go. Someone like him could help her guild get back to the top, so she quickly offers 5 billion won, about $5 million, plus a bonus. Hyjin pauses for a moment and thinks she's finally got him. He repeats the amount and she confirms it. Surely that's enough to win him over. Instead, he looks at her as if she has no clue and asks if Black Dragon is really that broke. Lucio adds that they sound cheap. He keeps walking while she chases after him, shouting that he won't get a better offer. Hyjin calmly says that he already has. When she drops the bounce, Sangjun's guild offered 20 billion. She freezes on the spot. He leaves her standing there completely crushed. Sometime later, he and Lucio arrive at a restaurant. The television is already talking about a new and promising hunter. He's in shock. It's only been an hour since the test and he's already in the news. He tells Lucio to place the order and calls the waiter, but before he can react, the food is already served on the table. As Sangjun saying that the service is quick and the food is excellent. Hyjin sighs and asks if this guy plans to keep following him. Sangjun insists that it's just a coincidence. They simply keep bumping into each other. The MC interrupts him and says that if it's about joining the guild, the answer is no. Sangjun tries to bring up the hunter exam, but Hyjin shuts him down as well, saying it has nothing to do with this. He wants a peaceful life, so joining a guild and attracting more attention is the last thing he wants. So Sangjun says he was mistaken, that this isn't a recruitment pitch. He wants to hire him as a divine messenger. He explains that there is an item that needs to be delivered to Japan in 2 days. The problem is that dangerous women have been stealing shipments. He admits that delivery work is his specialty, though he doesn't like to boast about it. Even so, he looks at him and says the payment had better be worth it. Sangjun tells him not to worry, the offer will satisfy him. When Hyjin sees the two, she assumes it means 200,000. Sangjun corrects her. It's 2,000 million. Immediately, Hyjin bangs her face against the table and promises that the delivery will be perfect. While Lucio continues eating, Sangjun says that he has full faith in Hyojin's delivery skills. Then the story moves to a flat where a girl on the floor says to just give the order. Hermes, Yeah, this already seems shady. In the next scene, they are aboard a huge cargo ship. Lucio is impressed, and our guy explains that everything belongs to the youth guild. He never expected to be in a place like this. It feels more like guarding a shipment than making a delivery. Then, two guards stop him and ask for identification. Casually, he shows his black card and says he's there for the Jungwon Guild. The guard sees the VIP card and lets him through immediately. Later, as they go deeper into the ship, Lucio says it's huge, though still smaller than the ship of the Argonauts company. Haijun laughs at how proud she is of Olympus. Then they arrive at a sealed container with a heavy security lock. The sword must be inside. It sticks out too much, but once he confirms it and the door is opened, he understands why they didn't bother to hide it. The sword is trapped behind bars, chains, and every possible security measure. It seems strange to her who would even dare to try stealing something so well protected. Lucio looks surprised, so she asks him if he knows this weapon. Of course she does. She says it's Durandal, the legendary sword. Hey, John admits he knows what he's doing, then interrupts her before she can start boasting. Yes, he gets it. She is a super special nymph. Lucio asks what they should do now, and he says they should stay here and make sure the sword arrives safe and sound. The problem is that it's boring, but he can't risk losing those 2,000. It seems like a lot for just one job, but if the sword gets stolen, they'd be paying for something that's worth much more. Then a horn sounds. The ship finally sets sail. At that very moment, a strange gas begins to fill the container. Outside, the heavily armed guards maintain a strange calm. Then the gas reaches them and they fall to the ground. At that moment, anyone could simply take their weapons. That's when a dangerous looking woman appears wearing a tight suit with a glint in her eyes, and she cheerfully says that the first phase is complete. Inside the container, our boy is already unconscious. Then he moves. A sharp snap hits his forehead. Lucio wakes him up and he jumps up, surprised that he fainted so easily. She tells him that a strange smoke spread throughout the ship and now everyone is asleep. He quickly covers his nose, wondering if it might be some kind of sleeping gas. First he checks the sword. Fortunately, it's still there. The strange thing is that his suit should have protected him from something like this. So maybe the thief used some special power. When he opens the door, he sees a woman standing there with her arms crossed, praying. She is asking the gods for strength so that she can be an honest thief tonight. He already knows that this girl is ridiculous. Without wasting any time, he opens the shop menu. Buying the right item would block the quest, but then the thief moves and a green flash cuts through the air. A rope coils around her arm and he instantly realizes that it's not normal. It's tying her up like a neck. When he looks back, Hagen casually says that he has caught a little thief. The item he bought was Raken's rope, a powerful binding rope that breaks if too much force is used. Now the thief is crying on the ground, saying that the gas came from her god. So how is it that he's still awake? He gives her a knock on the head and calls her an annoying thief who asks too many questions. The girl says that she is not a thief and begs him to let her explain why she needs the sword. But Hagen simply smiles and says that he is not stupid. Clearly, she is here to steal from the guild. She accepts being called a thief but says that she only steals what needs to be stolen. Everything is for a greater good. Hagen laughs and she asks him if he has ever heard of Robin Hood, the honest thief. She says that she is exactly like that, taking from those who have too much and giving to those who have too little. Neither Hagen nor Lucio believe any of that. He says that she needs professional help, and Lucio adds that old people can be strange. Then the girl suddenly shouts that he has to believe her. Hermes sent her to recover these objects, and that sword must return to its rightful owner to prepare for the threats that are coming. Hagen is surprised, while Lucio comments that maybe this girl really isn't an emissary of that god. Hagen is surprised, while Lucio says that maybe she really isn't an emissary of that god. He still thinks that she seems too careless for that, but he tells her to explain these supposed threats. Suddenly, she spits out an orb from her mouth and says that she didn't want to use it like this, but she has no other choice. She warns him that today he will pay for interfering. The purple smoke spreads across the ship and as soon as it clears, she is no longer there. Now swimming, she complains that it was a waste because those pills cost a fortune. What she used was an astral form elixir allowing her to take on an astral form. That's all. She swears that she will take revenge on that idiot in the tight suit. Honestly, her own outfit is even tighter. Her name is Su Jin Choi. She reaches the dock, muttering that it was too close and now the elixir is finished. Even then, she keeps thinking about him and swears that she will wipe that smug look off his face. Then a message appears asking if the mission was successful. She thanks Hermes and says it was a close call, but she got the item he wanted. She successfully stole the Ring of Dissipation, a legendary artifact from the tales of King Arthur. Hermes asks what exactly happened. She says she used the gas he gave her, but one person didn't go down. The god says that's impossible and demands to know who it was. She describes a guy in a tight hero suit who used a rope that looked like a mythical object to tie her up. Immediately Hermes says that sounds familiar to him and asks if there was a child with him. She confirms that there was a little girl with sky blue hair. She's confused as to how the god guessed so perfectly. So that guy really was important. Then Ares interrupts, laughing at the coincidence. He tells her not to worry because that person was chosen. She relaxes, happy that they are on the same side. Then she stops and comes to a conclusion about how they will meet again. She'll personally teach him to respect his superior. Meanwhile, Hagen receives his 2000 wands. Just as the guild expected, a strange person appeared and threw all the work into chaos. Durandal arrives safe and sound in Japan, so Hagen's job was finished. At least now his apartment was paid for. So he decided to visit Hephaestus. It had been some time since they last met. He also wanted to know what could be done with the Hydra scales he had obtained. At his workshop, Hagen knocks on the door. He notices that the lights are off and the fellow still hasn't shown up. Lucio quickly says they should leave and look for food, but then someone calls out to Hagen. He turns around and almost jumps out of his skin. It's Hephaestus, and with just one look he tells Hagen that someone dangerous is here. The protagonist points to a powerful woman and says that she is the divine messenger. She smiles and greets him. Then he introduces her as Phrygia, leader of the Valkyries, the very one who even taught magic to Odin himself. But the MC gets the completely wrong idea and thinks his friend is cheating on his wife. He grabs Hephaestus by the neck and asks him if he thinks he's turned into Zeus. MC quickly says that she is just a client. The woman laughs and says that Hagen must be very brave to assume she was having an affair with him. The dwarf stays calm while our guy ends up face down apologizing. Once that's done, she says they should get down to business. She wants Hagen to deliver a letter for her. The job is to take it to the ruler of Helheim and investigate the strange happenings that have occurred in Valhalla. He has 120 hours and will earn 500,000 points. Hagen repeats the names confused while Lucio starts trembling. She explains that it's the Norse land of the dead, which means this mission will be incredibly dangerous. Now that he's rich, Hagen really doesn't want to risk his life. Why die with all that money still in his account? He could retire right now and live comfortably with Lucio. Epheso says that Helheim is probably too dangerous for him, but before he can finish, Hagen cuts in. No, he will definitely take the job. There's no way he'll turn down more money. He says bravely that he'll handle it perfectly. Lucio gives him a kick on the back for thinking only about cash. Soon they're already in the mountains near a green lake. Hagen rides across the countryside on his motorcycle and the whole place just feels off. Makes sense. It's the afterlife. Lucio says he only agreed because he has no idea how brutal and dangerous Norse mythology really is. He tells her that she used to be much calmer and maybe she should go back to that. She replied that it's his fault. Every delivery with him feels like it takes a year of her life. In Norse myth, Valhalla is the place where warriors who die in battle go. Helheim is for ordinary people and for the dishonorable. So yes, it's no wonder that everyone wants to fight. Ya to paradise or a nightmare. Remember that Freya said she had been getting news from Helheim, so everything should be fine. She tells Lucio to relax. Honestly, that only makes him even more suspicious. When there are 10 minutes left to reach, they continue crossing a narrow bridge. Halfway across, suddenly something feels off. Her chest tightens. The air changes completely, freezing her to the bone. Lucio says she can't move and realizes that he can't either. Then a voice speaks nearby, astonishing, a living soul crossing the bridge of Helheim. Yes, another woman. The giant stares at them and says, "There's something odd about them. The girl doesn't smell of death, but the boy has already died once." He freezes and asks her to say that again. And so we get a tragic flashback. He rides his bicycle in the rain, knowing that making deliveries in weather like this will bring trouble, but his landlord keeps texting him, warning that he'll be thrown out if he doesn't pay the rent, so he has no choice but to keep working. Then a car cuts him off, he swerves onto the footpath and barely avoids crashing. He's about to shout at the driver when he notices all his deliveries scattered across the road. Now he's even more screwed because he'll also have to pay for the damages. While he's looking at his phone, suddenly a horn blares. In the heavy rain, a lorry driver doesn't see him. And so Hagen Lee dies at the age of 27. For some reason, at his funeral, they even used a photo of him drooling. Back in the present, he mutters in shock that this woman is trying to kill him. She says he smells like rotten meat, so claiming that he never died is ridiculous. Lucio suggests that the smell might have stuck to him when he went to Tartarus, just like how nymphs near water smell fresh. Sea nymphs smell like fish, and waterfall nymphs smell like moss. Tartarus and Helheim come from different myths, but both are lands of the dead. He smells himself and doesn't notice anything, but then remembers that the Hydra once said it could smell spirits on him. The woman nods and says that makes sense. He has heard of a mortal who met Hades in the depths of Tartarus. If that's true, then he should know who she is, the one who guards this passage. He has no idea and still doesn't know if that flashback was real. However, Lucio knows exactly who she is. There is only one guardian of the bridge known as the Warrior of Wrath. She says that this woman must be Mongud. Mongud praises her for knowing that and then asks why they want to cross. Lucio bluntly says that Freya sent them to deliver a letter to the underworld. The moment Mongud hears Freya's name, she understands. If it is for Freya, they may pass. Hagen moves quickly before she can change her mind. Watching them leave, Mongud thinks it's strange that the woman sent a mortal and a nymph. These two set out on a brutal journey. They pick up the pace and finally approach Helheim, but then the cold becomes unbearable, the kind of cold that freezes everything. Lucio sneezes and sprays her. He looks at her, already annoyed, because Freya never warned them to bring warm clothes. Lucius suddenly remembers that Helheim is frozen because the dead don't feel cold. He asks her why she didn't say that earlier. She shrugs and says she can't remember everything. Does he remember all of school? Then she tells him to stop complaining and buy something from the special shop. Grumbling, he opens the app. There's a baby wolf fur coat, but it costs 2 lakh points. It gives incredible warmth, but he still thinks it's madness when his motorcycle only costs 1 lakh. Even so, he doesn't have any other option. He buys it and loses 2 lakh points. At least he still has 6 lakh left. After putting it on, he tells himself that he'll recover at least 5 lakh once the mission is over. Benny notices that Lucio is also wrapped up in a coat and smiles. He didn't expect it to cover her as well. Then he realizes that it must work like an area effect that protects people nearby. The very next second, he speeds up again, determined to finish quickly now that the cold doesn't bother him. But after a while, they're still stuck in the snowstorm and the situation is getting worse. The coat keeps him warm, but the bike is slowing down. Even worse, the map also stops working. So they stop behind a big rock. Lucia says that if they kept going, they'd probably get buried. He tells her to stop being dramatic. He only stopped to check if the signal would come back. This guy is seriously obsessed with deliveries. He still has 41 hours left, but after checking the map, he realizes that they'll barely make it if nothing delays them. Lucio suddenly asks if he's not foolish enough to fall asleep here, right? But actually he's pointing out that something strange is coming their way. He steps out from behind the rock to have a look and feels heavy footsteps shaking the ground. He's expecting some kind of monster. Instead, it's a muscular fellow and a speedometer dashing towards them. The man shouts at them to run if they want to live. A pack of wolves is chasing him. Now Hagen is furious. This idiot has led the wolves straight to them. The chase begins with the speedometer guy running for his life while MC steps on the accelerator. He tries to ask the man something, but the fellow interrupts him saying he can't talk while he's struggling to breathe. What surprises Hagen the most is that this man is keeping up with the turbo bike. Both he and Lucio shout, asking why he brought the wolves here. The man says he just wanted to say hello since the only things he's seen in this place are snow and wolves. That answer doesn't help. Lucio tells him to turn around and let himself be eaten alone. Then, Hagen spots a cabin in the middle of the snowstorm, the perfect chance to recover. So he bursts through the door on his bike and runs inside. The strange fellow shouts at them to wait, but seeing the wolves right behind him, Hagen hesitates. If he lets him in, they could all get torn apart, so he shuts the door in his face. Cold as ever, he simply thinks he gave the guy a chance to earn some survival points. But the man replies that he won't die so easily. Then this lunatic jumps over the wall in a single 30-meter leap. Lucio is left completely stunned. He lands right in front of Hadrian and smiles, telling him not to look so surprised if there's no barrier. A real man can't be defeated. Hadrian can't lie. That speech actually gets to him. The speedometer guy comes closer, ready to introduce himself, but Hadrian interrupts and says it's not necessary. He ignores that and proudly announces that he is Sigurd, descendant of Odin and a famous warrior from the Balsan family. With no better option, Hadrian says it's a pleasure to meet him. Sigurd says the same, but Lucio already knows exactly who he is. She lights up like a fan meeting a celebrity and blurts out that he's the legendary hero Lufafnir. If this half-naked fellow really killed a giant dragon, he must be absurdly strong, yeah? Lucio explains that his title is Dragon Slayer. The shameless guy acts humble and says the stories are exaggerated, but Hadrian can already tell that he loves the attention. Sigurd says they shouldn't stay out in the cold and should head to the cabin. Hadrian still remains cautious because he has no idea who the owner is. Sigurd simply points out that staying outside to be eaten by wolves would be even more foolish. Fair enough, after so much running, Hadrian checks the map and sees that now they're much closer, so taking a bit of rest might not be a bad idea. Inside the cabin, they settle down next to the fire. Sigurd asks who they are and what brought them here. Hadrian says that he is delivering something to someone who's very far away. Sigurd seems puzzled and says that it's the first time he's seen a messenger in Helheim. Then Hadrian asks why he didn't just kill the wolves if he really is the dragon hunter. Lucio agrees it would have been easier to simply get rid of them. But Sigurd reminds them of one key thing: they are in Helheim. Inside, Hadrian thinks the castle looks quite normal for the underworld. Then, Sigurd suddenly stops when a maiden named Ganglet appears. Before they can speak, she already knows why they are here, with companions carrying a letter from Freya and planning to ask for an escort to the underworld. Ganglet interrupts him and says that it's already been arranged. They follow her through the corridors and Hadrian asks Lucio if she's a goddess or some mythical hero. Lucio says she is neither of those things. She has simply served the underworld for a very long time. Lucio praises Gangloth for serving the same goddess for so long and even asks her for advice. The maid doesn't say anything, which starts to annoy Lucio. What she doesn't know is that Gangloth is internally panicking because of how pretty she is. They reach a huge door and Gangloth says that the underworld is inside. Sigurd steps back and says, "This is where I live." Then he reminds Hagen to hand over the letter. When the door opens, our boy gets nervous. The pressure in the room feels completely different from that of any god he has ever met. He rules the underworld. When they enter, Gangloth introduces them. Hel laughs and immediately comments on his strange aura, neither alive nor dead. She says it must be him who is causing trouble in Helheim. Hagen quickly says that he is only here to deliver a letter and leave. Then suddenly, the letter is snatched from his hand and ends up in the tiny hands of a humble one. I was expecting the ruler of the underworld to look terrifying, not like this. She instantly asks if what is written inside is true, but Hagen says he has no idea, that he was only hired to deliver it. When he asks her why she's so curious, Lucio quickly warns him not to speak like that to a goddess. Helheim leans back on her throne and says that he is brave since most people are afraid of her. Then she decides to answer. Valhalla is under attack and the invaders are pretending to be from Helheim, but she never gave that order, which means someone else is behind it. She says that only one race in all the realms and myths could fight against fate itself. Then she repeats the riddle about the earth being divided into 7 parts and the blue flames rising. She knows exactly who is behind all this. While Hagen is a bit disappointed because the ruler of Helheim is just a little girl. Now it makes sense why Ganglot is so devoted to staying by her side. A little later, Hel leans back on her throne and asks if they have left. Ganglot says yes and that she opened a portal to send them straight to Olympus. Hel murmurs that Freya's sense of humor is something else, sending a human to the land of the dead. But Ganglot corrects her. Batman is not ordinary. He is the divine messenger known among mythological beings for accepting points as payment. Hel thinks for a moment and says that now she gets it. At least thanks to him it was confirmed that those creatures really do exist. Then she tells Ganglot to get ready to leave, which confuses her. Hel declares that this time she will go herself. Back with Hephaestus, he asks Adrian if that's really what she said, wondering if he heard wrong. But Adrian insists that he heard correctly and Lucio backs him up. She was standing right there. Freya brings up the prophecy again, the one about the 7 sections of land, and says she never expected it to actually come true. Adrian wants to know why everyone is taking it so seriously. He remembers that Hercules reacted the same way the moment he mentioned it. Freya says goodbye to Hephaestus and tells him she'll come back later for the object since this is more urgent. She wishes she had never heard about it, but now that she has to spread the word. She can't understand how things got so bad without anyone noticing. Maybe someone has been hiding the truth and pulling the strings from the shadows, like Ragnarok. Then Hagen grabs her by the shoulder. With a blank look, he asks her if she is forgetting something. The protagonist panics and calls him mad for stopping a goddess, but Hagen refuses to let her go without paying him. This time, Freya does not smile. She looks at him and calls him insolent for touching her without permission. The air turns heavy and Hagen starts trembling, not from the cold but from sheer pressure. Even so, he will not leave empty-handed. He starts to dance and sing, "Money or Rebellion." Yes, this fellow's definitely a bit off his rocker. Standing next to him, Lucio says that studies show this pose increases your chances of getting paid by 99%. Freya stares for a moment and then sighs. She had really forgotten about it. So our lad gets another 500,000 points, another 250,000 as a bonus, and quickly thanks her. That officially puts him at 1,000,000 points. Basically, he's a millionaire now. Immediately after that, Lucio gives him a double kick on the back, calling him mad for money. Freya just laughs and says those two are a complete mess. She apologizes for having lost her temper earlier, while Hephaestus just sighs and tells Hagen that he can't tell if he's stupid or just completely clueless. Hagen asks what he drank. The dwarf ignores him and says that a real man needs courage anyway. Then Hagen asks about the prophecy of the 7 lands, since everyone reacts as if it's something terrifying. Even Hercules did. Messi's in shock. Hagen has already spoken with Hercules. After hearing the whole story, the dwarf shouts that he should have said this much earlier. Hagen shrugs and says that nobody asked. Besides, he doesn't even know how to get to the place everyone is talking about. Hephaestus thinks about it and says that explains why the Council of the Gods is being called. That meeting is known as the Council of the Olympians. The last one was 389 years ago. Now he understands why they've called it again. Hagen insists on asking for more, but the dwarf interrupts him and tells him to forget what he has heard. Just knowing this is already dangerous, so he shouldn't ask anything else. Still curious, Hagen says he doesn't understand why everyone is hiding so much. Hephaestus simply says that this is something only the gods can deal with. If fate allows, one day he will learn more. But if he wants to stay alive, he must stop digging. He thinks it would have been better if Hagen hadn't known anything. Sometime later, back in the city, Lucio tells Hagen to open the door now so that she can sit and rest. He enters the access code and finally they return home, happier than ever. The apartment they've been paying for is finally theirs. Looking around, Hagen thinks that now it finally feels like home, since the previous owner's furniture is no longer there. Lucio immediately asks for a room, but Hagen keeps the bigger one. She refuses to accept that and insists that they settle it fairly with a game of rock, paper, scissors. Instead, Hagen grabs her by the arm, says there is no chance, and heads to the door to buy furniture. At that moment, someone knocks on the door. He pauses, confused. They have just arrived. Who already knows their address? He grabs the doorknob, tells them to wait, and opens the door to find Erin. She's standing there holding a big cake. Hagen asks her what she's doing here, and Lucio instantly recognizes her from the dungeons. Then he remembers that she was supposed to move into the house next door, so it finally makes sense. Erin lifts up the big cake and says it is for the divine messenger. Hagen takes it and asks what it is. She says it is a rice cake and explains that she wanted to organize a welcome party for him, but our boy rejects her straight away, saying that he has just come home and now is not a good time. The poor girl looks heartbroken. Meanwhile, Lucio, feeling hungry, asks if they're supposed to eat the whole cake. Before Hagen can reply, Lucio snatches the cake and runs off, stuffing his face. She says it's her fault since he barely ate anything the whole day, but the moment he tastes it, he starts vomiting. Hagen asks what happened. Lucio says it tastes like chocolate, dirty water, and toothpaste all at once. Hagen tells him that's what happens when you steal food meant for someone else. Aaron just takes a bite and calmly says that she has always liked chocolate with mint. She's completely relaxed in her flat while MC is still wondering why she actually came. He finally asks and she explains that the guild is investigating something. Sulligan sent her to talk to him, so he realizes that they are trying to hire him as an investigator. He asks what they are offering, but Aaron says that the details must come from the guild leader. Not wanting to run into Sulligan again, Hagen asks her to at least tell him the salary range. She raises 2 fingers and he guesses 2,000, 1,000, 1,000. Then she raises 2 more. 4,000, 1,000, 1,000. His whole face changes. Alright then, where's the widow? Let's talk. A little while later, they are in a parking lot. Sitting in Aaron's car, he thanks her for the ride, but Lucio starts complaining. They were supposed to go furniture shopping today, not take on another job. Hagen says he is only listening to the offer and promises they'll go shopping right after, but she keeps complaining. According to Lucio, the plan was furniture first and then good food. That is, until Erin hands her a ticket saying Lucio can use it at the guild cafeteria, where they serve all sorts of good food. Lucio brightens up instantly. Hagen looks back and sees how huge the guild building is. No wonder they're the strongest in the country, huh? A little while later, Sungin greets him with a big smile. He even apologizes for not bringing a gift, but Hagen cuts him off and tells him to get to the point. He doesn't want to waste time, especially when his companion is already eager to leave. Sungin says that's fine and asks him to take a seat. As usual, Hagen is already irritated by how overly friendly this fellow acts. Then Sungin gets down to the issue. The document says it's about reassessing the difficulty of the dungeons. Sungin says that Hagen has seen this before. The dungeons suddenly start spawning strange monsters and become much more dangerous. That's why the hunters have started avoiding them. And that's a serious problem. If no one clears a dungeon, the monsters spill out. That's a break in a dungeon. Higgins says he knows how bad that is. Even so, there's no way this guy expects him to fix something so big. Then he turns the page and immediately calls them mad. They want him to gather information about Red Drake, the strongest level 7 monster in the country. Not even the best hunters together could defeat it. Hagen bursts out. If the guild is the strongest, then why send a delivery boy? Sungin says the guild will help. They'll take care of the easier parts of the dungeon, but they also need information about the Lizard Man King, another major boss. Hagen is already trembling as he accuses Sungin of offering 4 billion, 1 billion, 1 billion just to send him to his death, but Sungin explains that this is only the registration fee. If he manages to get the information, he'll earn another 4 billion, 1 billion, 1 billion. Hagen is left stunned. They're doubling it. Immediately, they shake hands and seal the deal. Scene change. An old man with a golden cane waits by a lake as a man with a horse's head arrives. The elder says that it's not like him to be late. The orange-haired man says he had some trouble on the way. He throws a purple worm and says he found several underneath. They shouldn't be appearing in Nordic lands. The old man examines it and says he didn't expect them to have spread so far. The virus is spreading faster than I thought. I knew the prophecy of the apocalypse had begun, but not this quickly. The man with the horse's head gets ready to leave. Odin sent him to Helheim because something is disturbing Valhalla. The elder tells him not to worry. Phrygia has already sent the Greek hero who took care of it. The rider asks if it was Orpheus or Achilles, but the elder says no, just an ordinary man like him. That only annoys him even more. Who is this ordinary man meddling in his work? Another champion of the Greek gods. Meanwhile, Hagen is grinning like a fool because the money is truly amazing. The scene shifts to Chanlin's door. Hagen says he swore he would never come near this place again. But here he is. Lucio asks excitedly if he's been here before. He says no, but he spent a month in a place even worse than this dungeon. She's impressed and says that no normal person could survive in a place more dangerous than this for a month. He tells her that she has no idea what his life has been like, but maybe she's about to find out. Then he brings out his new bicycle 2.0. With every upgrade, it gets bigger. This new version is built with rare materials and made for an elite divine messenger. It is custom made and reduces 90% of the damage the cyclist takes. He says he had Festus fuse it with something extra and can't believe how amazing it turned out. The old bicycle was also fine, but he can't risk getting paralyzed again, like on the bridge. As he heads towards the portal, he says he's no longer afraid. It's time to deal with that lizard monster. Inside the swamp, he runs through the mud and water with ease. The upgrade is so good that the wheels hardly slow down. Lucio meanwhile gets covered in slime. Then he suddenly stops, surprising both of them. Right in the middle of the dungeon, there is an entire city. And not just any city, but a rich and impressive one. He remembers the report that said the lizard man should have passed through this gate. But something feels off. Why is there no one? Then a group of lizard men with spears appears. He gets annoyed and says that he has basically jinxed himself by thinking out loud. But when the first lizard man checks the gate, there is nothing there. Hagen quietly hides with Lucio tucked inside his helmet. Lucio comments about the lizard man and tells him there's no need to state the obvious. She asks what the plan is, if he's just going to smash everything up like always. But Hagen knows that this time the mission is not to kill anyone. He is only here to gather information, not to risk his life like before. Find the king, learn whatever he can and get out safely. At least that's the plan. Luckily, the guards pass by without noticing him. The monsters are clever, but their senses aren't as sharp as he expected. That makes him feel much safer. And even if things go wrong, he thinks he can buy something from the shop and make his escape. But then, a new delivery request pops up right in the middle of the dungeon. He's confused. Why now? It happens just as the alert warns that big enemies are heading his way. He forgot to turn off the notifications at the worst possible moment. He starts running, trying to figure out what's going on, and suddenly stops. Lucio asks why, and he says she'll see in a second. Just as a huge lizard charges at him with a spear, Hagen pulls out his phone. The creature freezes because the delivery request came directly from the Lizard King. Even the giant lizard looks stunned. The monsters and Lucio have no idea what just happened. Hagen thinks it's odd to get a delivery from a beast instead of a god. But money is money, so he tells the lizard that he's in a hurry and it's better if they take him straight to the boss. The trembling lizards point beyond him. He almost tells them to stop pointing at his face. Then he notices the huge shadow behind him. The moment he feels that presence, he slowly turns around. The Lizard King looks absolutely shattered. Hagen quickly notices the crown, but this creature looks nothing like the one in the report. The king hisses and clicks his tongue, but none of it makes any sense to him. Even so, if anything can solve a problem, it's money, or in this case, a free translator. Lucio offers to translate for him. He asks her if she really understands, and she says yes. The lizard language is simple. The king hisses again, and Hagen asks what he said. Lucio explains that a long time ago, a disaster struck the Lizard Kingdom. A brutal invader destroyed the land. Children, eggs, adults, even the elders were massacred. The entire kingdom was left in ruins. Hagen already knows where this is going. They want him to fight against that invader. He's quick enough to see how desperate they are. He came in as a hunter, but now these lizards seem pitiful, all looking at him with pleading eyes. Help! Even Hagen wonders why these lizards were drawn so cute. He says he's not a great warrior, but Lucio translates the king's offer: save the kingdom and he'll receive a treasure that is found only in the land of the lizards. And so, Hugin wants to go in. He is too curious about this treasure. Lucio says that the king wants to take him to the basement and show it to him. With the lizard king kneeling before him, our boy stops caring about anything else and says he will kill the invader. A little later, in the basement, it turns out these lizards are actually loaded. But wait, the thief has come back. That cunning bandit looks around with a smug smile, saying this place is full of good stuff. He can't decide whether to take the best items or to clean out the whole room. And when there are only 10 seconds left for Hagin to arrive, he and Lucio stop right in front of the door. And you can already tell that if it's this big, there must be something valuable inside. Using the last of his strength, the king starts to open it. A golden light shines and the door swings wide open. Hagen just stands there staring with his mouth open, thinking that the room might be empty. But no, it's still full of treasures and the thief is hiding inside. He reckons that there's as much treasure here as in an heir's warehouse. Lucio explains that the king took all this from the humans who invaded and failed. The king looks proud, but Hagen is not impressed. He's about to comment on the treasure when something catches his eye. A person with coins stacked on their arm. When the coins hit the ground with a jingle, she greets him casually. "What's up, lad?" The moment she appears, Yoshi's pleasant vibes vanish and the lizards get furious. Lucio says they're shouting to catch the bandit. And yes, they've already done it. This useless thief is completely pinned down. Hagen wants to know how he ended up here again. Meanwhile, Swing is just as confused. She had the task of stealing everything here, but somehow this fellow turned up again. She looks at him and asks, "Junior, don't you remember me?" Then she says that both of them work for Hermes, so he should explain it to the lizards. Lucio quickly adds that the king wants to know if Hagen really works with her, terrified of losing the reward. The poor guy is almost in tears. He swears that he went to an all-boys school and didn't even have a senior girl student. So just because he's about to lose money, he goes up to her and tells her to stop wasting time. Stupid, I don't work for Hermes. That leaves her confused. If she has been doing Hermes' work, why didn't Hermes tell the boy? Sonia then says that if he helps her escape, she'll do whatever he wants. And he's definitely thinking about how to turn that into money. He thinks about it while Lucio warns her not to trust a bandit, which is fair enough. After a brief pause, he says, "Alright." With an unpleasant smile, he says he'll name his price, but she has to swear by the River of V. She says that saying bad words about the River of Styx is madness, but he simply says that if she doesn't, he'll let the big lizards slit her throat and leave her to rot there. Seeing the sword at her neck, she gives in and curses by the River of Styx. If she helps Sujin Choi get out, she will do whatever he asks of her. He says fine and then tells Lucio to explain everything to the king. Shortly after, she is released and feels relieved. She was not executed. She thanks Junior for helping, but he interrupts her. "First, I am not your junior. And second, be ready for whatever I ask of you." Of course, her mind immediately goes somewhere strange, already imagining some very personal favor. But our lad is not asking for that. No, he has other plans. At that moment, the system window appears with a new mission. Defeat the Crimson Invader of this kingdom and save the kingdom of the lizards. Time limit 3 hours. Reward, the treasure of the kingdom. He's stunned. 3 hours is incredibly short. Last time he had 50 and even that seemed risky to him. He turns to Lucio and tells him that they must move now. There is no time to lose. He dashes off at full speed while Junior tries to tell them to wait. Standing next to the king, she complains to herself that the bastard is so rude he didn't even let her finish. Curiously, the king is still awake beside her. Meanwhile, Hadon is already ahead on his bicycle. He is 30 kilometers away. The king really didn't give him much time, and getting there isn't even the biggest problem. Winning is. Lucio tells him to slow down, but he says that's not happening. Then Sujin suddenly appears in front of him and says it looks like he has a problem. He almost jumps out of his skin, slams on the brakes and stops next to her. Already annoyed, he asks her why she's following him after he told her to stay put. The troublemaker just winks at him and says she couldn't leave him struggling after he saved her. He tells her to stay out of it. No matter what happens, he will still owe that favor. But she smiles and says that he won't be in such a hurry once he hears her out, because she knows exactly which monster he's after, the Red Drake. That reminds him that someone had already warned him this was terrifying and that he was only supposed to gather information. Yes, he really should have guessed it. He starts to wonder if Seligman already knew that Drake and the king were connected, since he asked him to investigate both. Looking at Seluchen, it's obvious that he doesn't want to risk his life fighting something like that, but he still needs him to trust her if he wants a share of the lizard's treasure. So she says that she knows the fastest way to the Red Drake and that she can guide him. Hajin replies, "I thought stealing was your only skill, so how are you helping me?" She simply smiles and tells him never to underestimate someone he barely knows. She'll help him find the monster, but she never promised to fight it. A good thief, she says, always has tricks to escape from trouble. A little later, he speeds through a crimson forest, this time with a woman riding pillion on his bike. Soon they spot a huge red lizard and she points it out directly. That is the Red Drake. Now it makes sense why it was called a terrifying monster. Lucio asks if they can even defeat it. She simply says that they'll find out. He switches to battle mode and activates his helmet. Then he launches himself at the creature with a big leap, ready to land a punch on it. Estimated difficulty level 7 boss. And Hagen punches it on the head. Honestly, it looked like one of those blows that should have ended the fight instantly. But no, the thing roars again and the guy just smiles. Alright then, it's time to defeat this monster. He throws another punch, this time from high up in the air, and the explosion spreads downwards. From the ground, Sujin covers her face in shock. How is he even doing this? Hermes had chosen her, and she was facing dangers that most hunters couldn't even imagine. But even she couldn't understand what she was seeing. This guy is here throwing kicks and punches like Little Lee. The Red Draco stumbles and falls back a inch. A madman moves like Master Lee and knows that the Hunter Association classified this thing close to level 7. Out of all the dungeon monsters seen in the world, it ranks among the top 10. She knows that Hermes chose him too, but that alone can't explain this kind of strength. Most of the top hunters have at least 15 years of experience, and most of them were chosen by powerful gods. But she's sure that Hagen got his powers less than a year ago. So how is he stronger than hunters who have trained for much longer? And from the way the Red Drake moves, she realizes that something is not right. Then she gets it. Drake is searching for him while he's on top, hidden by his helmet, and taking him down without being seen. Then that's when she finally realizes that he's using a cannon. The monster roars again and falls with a crushing blow. The blow crashes straight into the ground, but it does nothing. Hagen, still in the air, says that the monster is now swinging blindly because it can't find him. But monsters only exist for one reason: to drop money and get punched on the head. The whole ground erupts. After a while, there's hardly anything left of the poor thing. Actually, not just for a while, for a long time. Hagen admits that he has lost count of how many blows he has thrown, but somehow the big lizard is still alive. So yes, this fight is not as easy as it seemed. Even worse, the effect of his clothes was about to wear off. His helmet can still hide him, but without that boost, he won't hit as hard. So there's only one move left: go all out. He immediately summons the big guy to finish this once and for all. He jumps towards the giant lizard and shouts at it to die. The beast notices that something is approaching. At first it seems like a random blow, but no, the bastard dodged it. The real question is how? He still can't see it. Then he realizes the force of his movement briefly ruined the helmet's concealment effect, and now the red dragon comes crashing down with a crushing attack. The explosion looks like a clean hit and Subin can't believe he didn't dodge it. Everything was going well, so why would he take that hit? Lucio calls Subin a foolish human and warns him that jumping now would only slow him down. So she stays back and watches, while Lucio wonders who this nymph is and why she is hiding among the bushes. Even so, Lucio trusts Hejin. He survived one deadly disaster after another. He always finds a way out. That's why so many gods believe in him. There's no way Hyjin would lose to a monster like this. Subin smarts. Nice thought, but that kid just took a direct hit. Nobody survives that. Then she notices something strange. He's climbing up. He mutters that the lizard feels soft and she can't understand why he's clinging to the boss. She gets even more confused when Lucio starts cheering him on. His clothing effect only had 57 seconds left. As he climbs, he sees something, a star-shaped crystal under the beast's throat near its neck. Lucio instantly warns him that that's the reverse scale. He realizes that it's probably the weak spot and opens the shop. To kill this thing, you need something overwhelming. He asks Lucio if the red Drago is a dragon. She's not sure but says that a reverse scale usually means it is a rare type of wyvern. At that moment, she buys something from the shop. If it is that close to being a dragon, that's good enough for him. His points drop from 1,300,000 to 1 million. I still have no idea what it does, but the sword cost a fortune. He bought Sigurd's sword, Dragonbane, and it's still stuck in the monster's chest like a fool. Subban has no idea how he suddenly summoned that weapon. But the MC knows one thing. With this sword, he can finish him off by striking the weak spot. He goes in. Then, the monster's eyes light up and flames cover its body. Judging by his face, this is bad. He can't understand why fire is suddenly coming out of the creature. The explosion pushes him back. He wonders if this is its final move. Then he crashes to the ground. This is bad. He can't reach the reverse scale while he's like this. Lucio tells him to be careful and Subban runs towards him, shouting for him to get away. The second phase is much more dangerous. She says they'll have to work together, but he refuses. He can't hide his presence, so he should stay back. Of course, she's already got another trick up her sleeve. She smiles. Alright then, just sit and watch what I'm about to do. Then she throws him a potion, Demeter's Tear, an icy potion from the goddess of nature and earth. Everything it touches freezes, and in a second, King Drake is trapped in ice. The monster turns into a giant popsicle. She tells him that now is his chance to finish it off. He asks her why she didn't use it earlier, and she says she was waiting for the second phase. She did it on purpose and the two of them start arguing right there. Lucio interrupts them and tells him to move before it wakes up. The creature wakes up too late. Subban says he never thought anything could escape so quickly from Demeter's prison. Even worse, the flames cover its body again and MC has only 20 seconds left in his suit. Subhan says this is their last chance to open a breach for him. She throws her final potion, another Demeter's Tear, this one based on a plant. It touches the creature and melts instantly. With no options left, he attacks as the suit is shutting down. He jumps straight towards the scale and swings, delivering a massive violet slash. He strikes the level 7 boss right at its weak spot and cuts off its head. Not only did he break the scale, but he also killed the Red Draco. Back at Songjin's guild, Do-young reports that the investigation in the nearby dungeons has been completed. The guild leader thanks him and tells him to rest and get ready. But Do-young says he heard something in the lift and asks if it's true. Did the association really hand them a ticking time bomb to deal with? The leader says yes, the Lizard Man dungeon, and they still don't know how to handle it. He then reveals that they've already found out Heijin approved it 2 days ago. When the call came, he thought Heijin wanted to say that the investigation was over. But no, that wasn't it. She killed the Red Drake. That wasn't the plan, it just happened. Songjun thought she was joking. So he sent a team to check it out, and it was true. He never expected the kid to do something so crazy and now he has no idea how to explain it to the association. Everyone is relieved that the monster which could have destroyed the city is dead. But its sudden death creates a whole new problem. Heijin's contract says that her identity can never be revealed. But someone has to get credit for killing a level 7 monster, and that person will attract a lot of attention. Do-young gets excited and says that the delivery guy is a monster. At this rate, he could defeat most of the top hunters. Songjin sighs, saying that maybe he'll have to promote him to rank A, and Do-young immediately backs off. No worries, there's no need to promote him, let's keep this under wraps. Now Songjin wonders if he defeated the Red Draco, what happened to the information about the Lizard King? Then we return to the castle. Yoshi comes running in, bursting with excitement, ready to praise his savior. Lucio says they are grateful for being saved, and he tells him there's no need to translate the obvious. He takes the king's hand and tells him that he only did what had to be done. There's no need to bow. It's a pity that the king doesn't really know what he wants as a reward. And sure enough, the king looks unwell before pulling out a huge treasure chest. They open it and both are left amazed. Inside there's a small pouch. The king asks him if he likes it while the MC just stares. He's ready to complain. He risked his life for this small sack, but Lucio stops him. This is not just any ordinary pouch, and he asks what it is. She explains that it's basically an inventory bag that can hold countless items. Then the story jumps to the next day. The entire Yoshi village gathers to say goodbye. Early that morning, he receives a call from Songjin with some news. The city gate of Innocent has disappeared. Most likely, it only existed as an escape route for the lizard men in case the Red Draco attacked. Now that the kingdom is safe, they don't need it anymore. So the portal closed on its own. That makes him realize that there might be ways to close the gates without killing everything inside. Maybe humans and monsters don't always have to fight. Or maybe that's just wishful thinking. While he's thinking, Suban congratulates him and says that the reward he received should be really useful. He agrees and then asks her if she's satisfied. She used rare potions and didn't get anything in return. She says that she had never joined something without getting something out of it. Then he realizes that she's hiding something in her arm. Little thief. He asks what it is and where she got it from. She doesn't reply. She simply walks away saying that she enjoyed the time they spent together and that thanks to him, she got exactly what she wanted. So she left and he thinks that a thief is always a thief, but that's no longer his problem. It's time to go back home. Lucio asks if they're leaving now and he says not yet. First he has to collect what he's owed. Here come 8,000. Stangen says they'll study the entire body of the red dragon and send him a share of the profits. He had forgotten that monster corpses are worth a ton. He's so used to making deliveries that he forgot this might be the best part of a dungeon. From now on, maybe he shouldn't leave any monster behind. Lucio asks why he's so excited. Then it smells like chicken. Earlier, he thought she didn't want anything, but now she's desperate to eat. He gives her a cold drink, but she ignores it and burns her tongue anyway. He wonders if Lucio died of hunger in a past life. While eating yesterday's chicken, he says that good chicken is still amazing even the next day. Not long ago, he was stuck eating cheap stuff from the shop, and it always gave him acidity. Now he can spend $30 on chicken without a care. Having money is nice. Lucio even says he'll share a chicken bone with him. At that moment, a new order arrives, or rather, a delivery request. The moment Lucio realizes, he starts stuffing chicken into his mouth. She already knows that another terrible trip is coming, but he's in no hurry anymore. First comes breakfast, then work. With 10 lakh in the bank, he can slow down a bit. What is not calm is the Greek kingdom. The city is in flames and there are dead bodies everywhere. A soldier says that they cannot turn back now. They charge at the golden-eyed beast in the smoke, while another informs the king that everyone is fighting with all they've got and that it's still not close enough to stop its strength. The king asks about the summoned hero, but the answer is not good. They sent for him, but he won't arrive for another 3 days. The king says that it's already too late. By then, the palace will have vanished. Then the whole place starts shaking. An explosion blasts through the fortress wall and the Minotaur appears before the trembling king as he shouts at Poseidon and asks if he has abandoned them. Back at Hephaestus' house, the boy wonders why he isn't there and Lucio guesses that they arrived late. He blames Lucio. She insisted on making chicken thighs in the air fryer before leaving. Then she realizes that her phone has been ringing non-stop, so actually it might be urgent. At that moment, Lucio looks back and Hephaestus comes over looking angry, so he finally made it. The boy stiffens up and awkwardly asks if they need a delivery. The protagonist reminds him that this is urgent and tells him the job won't be easy. They'll talk about it inside. The idiot just nods. Once they're seated, the dwarf admits that this is a big problem and he hardly knows where to start. The MC tells him to start anywhere. He'll try to follow, but he's more nervous than ever. MC hardly ever hesitates, so this must be dangerous. Then Hephaestus brings up his conversation with Freya. The boy remembers the story about the division of the realms into 7 parts. The dwarf says he was hoping the Olympians and the others could handle this, but things have only gotten worse. The invaders have already reached places when not even the gods can enter. They learned more at the Olympian Council. These creatures are not only invading mythical realms, but have also crossed over into the human world. The source of this disaster was not limited to the upper realms, it spread to the lower worlds and even to the underworld. The biggest problem is that, because of causality, the gods cannot interfere in the human world. The only good news is that the creatures still cannot move about with complete freedom. For now, they are simply planting seeds, waiting for them to grow and seeing what happens. That makes the boy stop him. He says he's totally lost. What, Steves? What, bots? What is he talking about? His friend asks him if he really doesn't know, and when the boy starts to answer, suddenly everything gets cut off. He says he didn't catch that and asks him to repeat it, but Lucio says he only heard a strange static noise. Hephaestus realizes that the laws of the gods will not allow him to tell the boy directly. A long time ago, the gods worked together to seal away this existence, so even saying its name is forbidden. He tells the boy not to stress about it, he'll learn with time, and today's work is connected to all of this. He explains that they were supposed to receive a tribute from someone named Crichton, but it hasn't arrived yet. He is lucky that his father hasn't found out yet, since he is busy with the council. If Poseidon were to find out, he would be furious. So the boy needs to find out what happened before that. Naturally, he'll be paid well. The MC sums it up. Something was owed, it hasn't arrived, and they don't want Poseidon to find out. Then he asks if that's all, why is everyone acting like it's so urgent? Lucio says if it were any other king, it wouldn't matter, but this is King Minos. For him, being late is unacceptable. Once he plunged his entire land into chaos by defying Poseidon and refusing to sacrifice a white bull. That led to the famous labyrinth, a deadly place that housed the Minotaur. He still doesn't see what being late has to do with the Minotaur, but he thinks he'll find out soon enough when he goes out, or maybe not entirely. His ability to walk on water is starting to wear off and he has to stop at a small island before he drowns. Lucio tells him to be more careful and he replies that he didn't know it was so far. He decides to buy something from the shop to help him cross the water, but everything is ridiculously expensive. Theseus bought for 30,000. The Argonauts are sent for 50,000. Noah's Ark for 100,000. There's no chance. Lucio asks what the plan is and he says they'll look around first. Maybe there's something useful near there. He takes out the infinite bag and says that's exactly why he brought it. He had already packed it with all sorts of useful things, but apparently there wasn't a boat. Instead, he ends up using binoculars to scout around. Then, that's when he sees a temple in the distance with smoke coming out of it. He thinks it might be a stop on the way to the island of Crete. Then, suddenly a soldier appears in sight, demanding to know who they are. Many more show up as well and ask why they have entered this land. The boy tells them to relax, he just needs a boat to get to the island of Crete. A soldier gets angry and asks him if he knows where he is, but then someone stops him with a hand on his shoulder and says he'd like to hear the boy out first. The MC thinks the guy looks suspicious and then realizes that it's actually Theseus, another famous legend. This time, the boy seems to know who he is and Lucio quickly adds that Theseus is the hero who defeated the Minotaur. He was also the only one who escaped from the labyrinth. Later, he became the king of Athens and went on many adventures with the help of the gods. Theseus says that his outfit gives him away. He must be the divine delivery boy he's heard about. Seeing the boy's reaction, he knows he's guessed right. Not many people dress like that. He says he heard about him through Jason from the Argo company, and the boy remembers that it was the captain who asked him to take care of the sirens. Still confused by this talk of a rising hero, he asks what people are saying. Theseus says that now everyone knows about him. He invaded the Siren's nest, killed the Hydra, healed Chiron's leg, and even delivered something to the Norse gods in Helheim. He is making a real name for himself in the divine realms and can't help but look a bit pleased. Lucio asks what people are saying about her. Theseus says he has heard that the divine delivery man has some sort of assistant. That crushes her. While she melts down, Theseus hands the boy a paper and tells him it'll help him reach the island of Crete. The boy checks it and realizes what it is. It's the legendary map. But Lucio notices and also says that the threat has returned. So the boy asks if Theseus didn't kill the Minotaur a long time ago. He explains that he never killed it, he sealed it inside the labyrinth. The problem is, he has no idea how that seal was broken. So tomorrow morning, He'll go to Crete and finish this once and for all. Then he asks if the divine delivery boy wants to come along. The boy hesitates since this time he hadn't planned on fighting anything, but then he agrees. Things don't always go the way one wants. Meanwhile, the king gets trapped in the Minotaur's clutches, and one thing is clear, the beast is furious. The next morning, the boy tries to wake up Lucio, who keeps asking for 5 more minutes. He tells him to get up now because the ship is leaving and they don't have time to waste. Lucio sadly begs him to stop being so strict. He looks outside, hoping that Theseus has managed to gather enough people to help. The previous day, Theseus told him to get a good rest while he went to recruit as many allies as he could. That was when the boy asked how he stopped the Minotaur the first time. Theseus said that he had the help of Princess Ariana of Crete. The Minotaur was a monstrous curse that brought ruin to King Minos and his entire family. A punishment for challenging a god? The strange thing is that the monster was supposed to be sealed deep within the labyrinth forever. So how did it become strong enough to destroy Crete once again? Bisay says that is what he wants to find out. They have to act quickly before everything is lost. And this time he wants to put an end to it once and for all. Our boy asks why he is trying to gather so many people instead of leaving immediately. Besa says he thought the same until he heard something from Hercules. But he never explains what it was, leaving our boy wondering. He starts to think it might be related to what Hephaestus said in the shop. Fighting monsters was already bad enough, but what really bothered him was the feeling that he was being dragged into something much bigger than it ought to be. Lucio says she is ready for the adventure, and Hagen realizes that she has no idea how dangerous this really is. At the docks, the soldiers are loading boxes onto the ship while our boy calls out to Theseus. The hero jokes that he thought he would have to wake him up, since Lucio keeps saying that Hagen sleeps too much and is lazy. He tells them it's alright and that too bored, they can meet up with the others later. Our boy is impressed by how big the ship is. It really looks like something straight out of an anime, and Theseus proudly says that makes sense. It once belonged to a legendary hero. A boy asks what Lucio just said, but she insists that this time it wasn't her. Now he's confused because that annoying sharp comment sounded exactly like something a nymph would say. Then someone says that's exactly how a country nymph reacts, and our boy turns around to see who it is. Basically, Lucio version 2.0. The boy is like a shorter version of Lucio, and somehow she knows him. She calls him Luber and says it's been a long time. Lucio's very happy to see him and says she never thought he would help Theseus, but Lubre pushes her face back and tells her not to come closer. They're not friends. This is only the second male nymph our boy has seen, and now he realizes Lucio wasn't lying when she said she was tall. Then someone asks why Lubre is still there. It's Theseus telling him to take the guests to their rooms. Our boy apologizes and says it's not Lubre's fault that he also has a troublesome nymph. Theseus ignores him and tells them to get ready because they're leaving now. Our boy asks Loveword to show them the rooms, but the poor fellow is still recovering after Lucio grilled and slapped him. Inside the ship they discover that the room is quite nice. Loveword thanks our boy for not telling Theseus that he was fighting, and he says it's no problem. If he's a friend of Lucio, then they are friends too. And so the two of them start arguing again. Loveword simply sighs, gives in and leaves, looking a bit downcast. A boy thinks that's strange and asks if Theseus treats her badly. Lucio explains that nymphs are basically treated like servants. It's not that Theseus is cruel, it's just that our boy treats her differently. Hagen believes this is because in the old myths, slavery was considered normal. For someone from the modern world, that doesn't make any sense. Soon the ship sets sail, and as they leave, Theseus quietly says that he never thought he would enter that labyrinth again. When they arrive at the city, the soldiers get off the ship and our boy is left stunned. The whole place is destroyed, more rubble than city. Even worse, all the dead seem to have gone through something horrible. Theseus says that this must be the work of the Minotaur and that for now they need to look for survivors. Leveler points ahead and says that at least one building is still standing. It is the Temple of Poseidon. Since it was said that all this disaster was the god's punishment, the beast probably did not dare to go near it. They head towards the temple, but there is already a trail of blood leading to the doors. Beastwise opens it thinking that the Minotaur might be inside, but instead finds a crowd of desperate survivors. The people become emotional when they see Theseus, and he feels relieved that some of them have survived. The survivors are quickly escorted back to the ships, and our lad feels a bit better knowing that not everyone was lost. Then an old man comes up from behind and tells him that he has important news. A Minotaur has taken King Minos hostage. A lad asks where the king was taken, and of course it was right to the deepest part of the labyrinth. And the real problem is, the longer they wait, the harder it gets.